All right, it's a hot and steamy Tuesday night. Sam and I are mostly dressed in the studio. All right, by mostly dressed, I'm pretty sure we're completely dressed. Almost Agreement at gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Go to the website, almostagreement.com. Check out my voter guide 22. Tip top of there is KGIS as well as election commission links. Go there. I think registration is passed, so if you haven't registered yet, you're fucked. There goes my YouTube's monetization. Damn it. Anyway, registration's out. I believe registration is closed, but you can double check through the Knox County Election Commission's link provided there. And you can figure out what district you're in, where your voting location is, and then as you scroll down, you can see all the candidates that are available for the people that you're allowed to vote for and that kind of thing. If I've done shows with them, there's links to their show. I'm trying to get everybody's website still on there as well. Taking a light week this week. The holiday makes things a little weird, so I don't have a lot of interviews for the next couple, but I'll get back into interviews before this is all said and done. Favorite podcast provider, hit us up. Tell us all about it. Like, share, friend, subscribe, tell your friends about us, help us grow the show. Barbarian Studios, and rather Barbarian Productions, is growing. I've got a new project that I'm working on right now. We'll see if we can get that one launched in the near future. So, podcast time. I screwed that up. I forgot to arm the channel for the intro music, so I can return. I can do it in the post, but anyway. So, hey, buddy. What's happening? Hey. What are you shaking your head at? Was I wrong on the registration?
I thought I read an article recently. I thought it was still like another week or so. I could be wrong.
Right, and yeah, I could be wrong too, because I thought I saw somebody post something about last day to register is tomorrow or something like that. So get in there and do it or some shit. Where would it be on here? Would you say? Am I registered to vote? Secretary of State Trey Haggart, you drunken fool.
What? Oh, yeah. See, a couple stories said he was leaving Bonnaroo, but then I read another one. He was like leaving a bar. But I don't know if it just happened to be at Bonnaroo earlier than that.
There's a bar in Manchester.
That area, yeah, I guess. Tullahoma County, I think it was. So I was mixing up with Tuscaloosa, and I was like, no, that's Alabama.
I don't see, it says, am I registered? Then it goes to the Secretary of State site. What elections are coming up? I want to know more. Looking for voter information.
T-ballot. Something on here like important dates or something.
It gives the schedule. May 3rd primaries, August 4th general plus federal and state primaries. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah.
If it's not already passed, it's coming soon. So get your shit together, people. It's more of a story. I don't know what's new. What's happening? I'm trying to think. Like I said, I was trying to think. I mean, honestly, to be fair, like if you want to start here, I don't even know. Like the Supreme Court decision, there's a couple come down, but the one big one is kind of taking the air out of everything else that's been talked about.
Yeah.
I mean, it more or less shut down Jan 6 coverage, which is still going on. But as far as the top topic of conversation, it's not January 6 stuff anymore.
I watched the hearing today.
Abortion stuff. I didn't say... Correct. I didn't say it ceased to exist, but as far as where it sits in the hierarchy of hot topics that people are discussing, I mean, we've had like 3 marches already downtown, one of which was against the bike race.
What?
Which apparently...
I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, there's the U.S. Cycling...
I know they just had the race, but
right, and apparently it's like a whole weekend of stuff. Like
yeah.
But the big main event is the men's race that's at like 1 in the afternoon. It was at like 1 in the afternoon on Sunday, and apparently the beginnings of this rally was at like 3, and it's like a 4-hour bike race. And so the stretch of Gay Street downtown that the bike race goes through, like it comes up that side street next to Tennessee Theater,
yeah,
turns onto Gay Street, goes south, crosses the bridge. Well, the rally started at Crutch Park, which is like a half a block north of where that turn is, and so those two crowds kind of got intermingled a little bit. Apparently some shit went down. Tyler Givens, who ran for mayor.
But wait, there was an actual protest against the race itself, or
no? It was a.
Okay, that's when I got confused. I was like, wait, I didn't hear about that.
All right. It was just those two crowds conflicted because they were taking place in similar areas. Yeah. And so I don't know. Like, again, I think if we're going to go down it a little bit. Legally speaking, I agree. Legally speaking, this should be something that is decided upon by our elected officials, not by the courts. Now, there's a couple different ways to look at it on the legal side of it, and I don't necessarily disagree with the argument that bodily autonomy is like number 1A in a civil rights conversation. Like, I get that argument, but there's no reason we couldn't codify that to make it clear. Because to me, historically speaking, the right to vote was never, I don't recall, maybe I'm wrong, my pocket constitution's upstairs, but the right to vote was never explicitly white landowning males. It was just always an assumption. And then it was clarified with the women's suffrage, so now that men and women could vote. And it takes again, I'm not 100% sure on the background here.
I think then it was
historically speaking.
I think it was state legislatures that made most of those requirements.
But at least constitutionally, right? At least constitutionally speaking, though, it doesn't say specifically in the Constitution only white landowning males can vote.
Right.
And then we have 19th Amendment is the women's right?
I believe so.
16, 19, 18, somewhere in there. And so that amendment basically says that states cannot stop women from voting. And so it's a clarification of the one that already exists. The right to vote already existed. We're just clarifying that women include in the people the right to vote. Then the Civil Rights Act comes in, and that further clarifies. It says, when we said everybody has a right to vote, it's 18 up. It's adults of any race, religion, gender, whatever. It's just clarification's sake. So like this one to me, the abortion conversation to me, if we're going to argue it under the civil rights part of the conversation, is that you have bodily autonomy. You can do what you want with your body, which is not a constitutional guarantee by any stretch of the imagination on other topics outside of this one. But if that's the argument, that the bodily autonomy is the argument, then you say, okay, let's clarify this. Let's clarify this language to say that, bodily autonomy is a specific right protected by the federal government. No state can enact a law that oversteps the bounds of your autonomy as an individual. Like that's one way to go about the solution here, about putting it back on where you have the right, or not you because you can't functionally, but where the right for an abortion comes back online. But again, I agree in the legal principle that if that's the argument, then I get the Supreme Court side of it, but I don't think that's the way the Roe v. Wade was decided anyway. I don't think it was a bodily autonomy conversation. I don't remember the details of it super well, but
because there was a couple main cases. There was the Roe v. Wade, and then Casey Dobbs, I think, was the one in like 92, maybe.
Yeah. And so, but the moral I'm getting to is that if there's a couple different ways you can argue and put this back legally or whatever, that's one way to do it. And to me, I say you make it a clarification. You put a law in the books that says we're clarifying that bodily autonomy is under the purview of civil rights. You have a right to bodily autonomy. The state cannot force you to do things with your body that you don't want to do, which again is a falsehood in other stances. Because you go back a year, 2 years, there was real conversation, which didn't eventually happen, but we do have it in other places. But there was real conversation about the vaccine passport and required the vaccine to participate in the public square, stuff like that. You go back a little. Still to this day, you have schools. You have vaccine requirements to go to schools. And again, I'm not gonna be anti-vaxxer. That's not what I'm trying to get through in this conversation. I'm just saying that was a conversation we were just having about vaccines and the argument for bodily autonomy, which is another humorous, hypocritical thing going on right now. Is you have the group of people that was against the vaccine and against masking and screaming bodily autonomy left, right, and center, is now the group of people celebrating the fact that they've taken away bodily autonomy. And then the inverse is true. The people that were against bodily autonomy by saying you have to get a vaccine, you have to wear a mask, are now the ones that are saying, hey, bodily autonomy, fuck you. That's a separate little sub-humor thing to me. But it just shows the hypocrisy that goes on constantly, and it's like, whatever. And so to me, again, I guess, I follow the logic legally. This should be something decided by our elected representatives. This should not be something decided by the courts. I think it's unfortunate that we live in a state and that there are a number of states and that there are federal groups pushing really hard to make it a federal ban, because I think that's inappropriate as well. I think it's unfortunate that our state is a state that's against this idea and going to make it difficult. But I think it makes more sense this way than how it was, I guess, is what I'm getting at. You know what I'm saying? It's not about the action itself. I believe that it should exist. I believe that people should have the right to do this. I believe in bodily autonomy. I don't think it's fair for the state to say you have to do anything with your body. And I go much further down the libertarian argument of that than most people do, but I don't think it's okay for the state to require you to do anything. Like, I think that's an unfair premise. Like taxes. I don't think it's fair that the state requires you to pay taxes. But that's not exactly a bodily autonomy thing. But, anytime the state says that you have to do something, I think that's got to be a very high standard to cross. And if part of that have to do something is take care of your body in a certain way, do certain things, not do certain things, because, there's criminality attached to you damaging the other life form, whatever you want to call it, in the process, I don't think the state should have authority for that. But I think it should be, but that's on a policy stance, that should be the policy. The policy is we don't have the right to make you take care of your body long enough to create another being.
I want to say I read the Nashville Attorney General, it might have been, I guess, maybe Davidson County, has already said he wouldn't prosecute any woman or doctors that provide, because they even went so far as like providing like information.
Yeah, that's a weird one. I know the Knox County.
Like, hey, I know a clinic in this state or whatever. I could be found, I guess, like liable for that.
Right, and I know Knox Planned Parenthood has already stopped performing the procedure. I know I did see that there was a court injunction or hearing or whatever that Governor Lee was bragging about that basically said, "Yep, it's illegal to perform abortions in the state of Tennessee now." But like the apparently
it's still after 6 weeks.
Right, it's a 6-week ban.
I think
right.
like July 1st, I think it goes to complete.
Right, I mean, here it is right here. It's the Herbert Slattery III, Attorney General and reporter of the state of Tennessee. Press release. Tennessee heartbeat law is now in effect. Attorney General Slattery responds to the Sixth Circuit's ruling. National Attorney General Slattery issued the following statement after the full Sixth Circuit of Appeals unanimously vacated the district's court injunction. Because, right, this was already one that was in place that was held.
All right, we had one of the trigger laws.
Yeah. Provisions in the Tennessee Heartbeat Bill in Memphis Center for Reproductive Health for Slattery. Is it a different person? Is that the same person? Anyway, that's weird. Tennesseans, through their elected representative, passed the Heartbeat Bill in 2020. With today's unanimous decision from the Circuit Court, the timing provision prohibiting most abortions are now enforceable. Right. It is now illegal in Tennessee to abort an unborn child who has a heartbeat. Specifically, the Heartbeat Bill protects unborn children in 6 weeks gestational age who have a heartbeat, and it also protects unborn children at 8 weeks or older. So 8 weeks period without a heartbeat, I guess, and 6 weeks with.
But you ask any doctor, it's not actually a true heartbeat.
Right.
But it's neither here nor there.
Right. The one that grosses me out, which isn't law currently, but there's conversation about making it so. Florida specifically has been talking about it pretty strongly, apparently, is making it illegal to leave state.
Seriously.
And go get one and come back. Like, basically, if you leave the state of Florida pregnant and come back not pregnant, and there's no kid with you, they're trying to figure out a way to make that criminal.
Wow.
And I have, like, on the grand scheme of constitutional federalism, all the different whatever republic that we're supposed to live in thing, I can't, that cannot be okay. Because, like, state of Illinois, abortion is constitutionally guaranteed by the state of Illinois.
Is it?
And so it's like Illinois, like, it's gross, but they're going to have a tourist economy of abortions now. But, you
got some states in the Midwest that were doing that.
Right. I mean, New York and other states, but at least, like, for Illinois to change the law, it's a state constitution issue, which means it's a much longer, harder process to do. And so, anyway, the idea that there are people going after that, and obviously, because the people are going after that are the people that went after this in the first place, they have a track record of succeeding.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the actual case was. It was a Mississippi case that got kicked up through the court system all the way up to the Supreme Court.
Right.
I'm not sure what the initial case was that the Supreme Court then ended up deciding on.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the name of the Mississippi case or whatever. But again, the moral of the story is I agree with it on the legal standard of this should be something that is made, that has a decision made by elected representatives. The problem with it is our elected representatives don't actually represent us. Because nationally, I don't know what Tennessee's stats are, but nationally, an outright abortion ban is at like 13%. So in polling, 13% of the country wants an outright abortion ban. And so, you know, and again, like on the politics, like we were talking last week, if they see on the politics of it is what drives me crazy. Because I got in a Facebook fight today.
Sound like a kid coming home from school.
I mean, it's because it's so stupid. We'll talk more about the fight specifically later.
No,
but
we don't have to do that. You can do that off air.
But with the AC, like AC was talking about last week about how bad the Dems are at getting shit done. And it's like Obama had a supermajority in the Senate. If it was an important issue, they could have codified it then. They could have done what I was talking about and clarified and said that bodily autonomy is a civil right, and it cannot be infringed on by state law, which would basically make abortion legal nationwide, and no state could do anything against it. But they didn't do it.
You ask most legal scholars, they thought it was, quote unquote, settled law. They didn't think it was I guess what some call a super precedent, but most people took it as a precedent that I think most people.
I mean, I hear what you're saying. I 100% do. But
so I think that there wasn't really a fear that it would be overturned.
But it was a tool. It was a constant tool for politics. So at least the efforts, the theoretical efforts, like any campaign promise, were there. The intent was there. I mean, the state of Tennessee put all these trigger laws into effect. They obviously thought it was a possibility.
Well, some states had trigger laws on the books for like over 100 years.
No, Roe v. Wade was in the 70s.
Right.
How would you have a trigger law for to go against a Supreme Court ruling that only happened 50 years ago?
I'd have to reread the story.
Okay. Anyway, whatever. I'm sure at the time there are some states that put it right after Roe v. Wade came out, if this ever gets overturned, and then eventually everybody forgot about it or something like that. I get what you're saying. Is that it just kind of fell off the radar because it was like in 1980, and now it's 40-something years later. Oh, yeah, we have that on the books. We can go ahead and run with that. But I'm saying, like Tennessee, for example, if it's settled law, if it's over, we can't do anything about it. In 2020, that heartbeat bill was passed. Why were, I'm not that I'm above thinking that the state Senate of Tennessee is wasting time and doing stupid shit for no good reason. I believe that they are perfectly capable of doing that. But I mean, if it was just politics, if that's the argument, is that it was just, it was a political thing that they were doing to rile their base so they could get voted in again. Okay. I'd believe that. I would 100% believe that. But I don't know. I just feel like there's got to be somebody that's at least arguing that it's a possibility for them to bother going through the process. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If we're going to go through the process of passing a law that can't go into effect until some other thing happens, the argument's got to be that other thing can change to make this thing go into effect at some point. So, I mean, I get what you're saying. I do. I get what you're saying is that everybody's like, yeah. I mean, I was too. Like, I was like, they're never going to do it. It's going to kill the politics of it. I mean, it's just for the election's sake of it, it's going to kill the politics of it. And the Dems do perfectly good job, and their reaction to it is, hey, donation emails and texts and shit immediately. Donate to us so we can take over the House, which we already have control of, and do something. But anyway, point being, I get what you're saying, that it was probably thought of as settled. But even just for the political sake of it, as a Democrat, as Obama, as Democrats in the House and Senate at the time that Obama and the House and Senate were under control, it's a political win to get it on the books. For everybody that wants to make sure that this is never a problem.
I don't get your argument with the whole majority thing. Trump had a majority for a while. Why didn't he codify anti-abortion then?
I don't know, because
Bush Jr. had.
I don't know why.
I mean, you can look back in previous presidents and that had majorities of time. If they did or didn't get this done,
I don't know why they didn't. I mean, I think one of the things is your stance on it is it's easier to, it's easier to do it, and then it's easier to do it first and have to and not have to go through the continual process. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, you're right. I get what you're saying. Why didn't the the right side do it, because honestly I don't think the right side wanted to do it either. For the most part, majority as far as their actual electorate. The right was happy to have it as an issue that they could run on, but never actually do anything about it. I think. And I think the left was the same way. And, maybe that was the argument. That's why they didn't do it, is because, we codified it now. It's never going to be an issue again. Moving on. Or we codified it now, and that gets the right up in arms, and they come out in force next election cycle and kick the Democrats out. But anyway, I just think, I don't know. I just think there's the problem I'm having at large is I don't care about either party. I don't care which party's doing what, per se. But this is not the consensus at all of the populace. And more than that is that there's no action. Like there's no, like, again, like AC was saying, like, you have the ability to do right now. And there's no real action on it. And there's no real forcing it. And like you have people up in arms about it right now, and you still somehow can't. They're not going to get this one through that they've got right now. The House passed something.
I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, the House passed something. I don't remember. I'll tell you what it is right now, actually. Under Energy and Commerce. H.R. 3755, to protect a person's ability to determine whether to continue or end a pregnancy and to protect the healthcare provider's ability to provide abortion services. Women's Health Protection Act of 2021. So, apparently it got through this week. Last action in the Senate. No. Oh, what a douche. Never mind. I'm wrong. I took somebody's word for it when they told me about it. Maybe. I don't know. This is like the State of Tennessee site trying to follow an actor on. I don't quite understand what I'm looking at.
You were on a congressional bill.
Yeah. I mean, it's H.R. 3755.
All right.
September of 2021 is when it was received. Read the first time. Read the second time and placed on the calendar on the 29th of the 2021. But its last action was February 28th of 22. Motion to proceed to the measure not invoked in Senate by yay-nay vote 46-48. So it died.
Does that mean the Senate voted not to take up that bill?
It died in some Senate something. But it says passed House right here.
Yeah. So maybe the Senate just never took it up, or it's sitting on their desk.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know. That's apparently going through action right now.
They passed gun legislation, I think, last week.
Yeah, I haven't really followed up on that. I mean, maybe that's the distraction that this is actually trying to cover. Kaz was fantastic.
Awesome.
I like in the outro, my joke was, man, he's good. We spent probably 15, 20 minutes of the last portion of the show not talking about trustee's office. Because the reality is, I mean, he acknowledged it. He said he talked to Ed Schaus, the current trustee, a couple times. And Schaus basically says the office runs itself. And it's like, so what's the point of you then? And so like you go back and forth, and I get why we have the trustee, but it's $140,000 a year job, full time, working for the county to oversee I think there's like 40 employees of the office. But it's what we thought. It's tax collection. They take what the assessor says and put it against the tax value, and they say, okay, this person owes this much money. They make sure they collect this much money in property taxes. The state sends the sales tax for the time period. They move that around a bunch of different banks in the county. And when the Parks Department asks for some money, they double check and make sure the money the Parks Department has is inside the parks budget as decided upon by the mayor's office and the commission. And if it's within the realm of rules and current budget status, then they release that money to the different departments. And so I would say theoretically they are sort of the comptroller of Knox County. I think I need to get a tune. I need to get a thing for comptroller. Every time we say comptroller, I need to get a button for that. That's not going to work because I don't have that channel open. Damn it.
Yeah.
But but realistically, it's really just it's a bunch of accountants, and the one real bit of discretion that the individual that happens to get elected there has is just kind of money handling processes. So, like, one of the things, like, county budget totals, $900 million or whatever. They break that up into different, quarterly, monthly subsets, right? And so it's like Parks Department has, I don't know what it is. We could probably look it up, but just for conversation's sake, let's say Knox County Parks Department's a $25 million annual budget. And then that's divided by 12. They get, $2 million a month that they're allowed to spend. And so the director of the Parks Department says, hey, we got this project. We need $2 million. Trustee goes, okay, that's within your budget. Here you go. Check. Issues the funds or whatever, right? And so since it's all built on the budget, that's a fixed number. Let's say, because one of the things to keep in mind, which is weird, is we're in June. We're at the end of June right now, right?
All right. So
all the taxes collected in the month of June, any businesses in the county collect those taxes. That money is due to the state sales tax on July 20th. The state then takes that, and then they distribute that back to the counties, the county portion of it, in August, right? And so there's a little bit of weird timing game that you have to play a little bit. Be like, hey, we need to slow down a little bit on the cash withdrawal because we're coming out of, the next deposit we're getting from the state is from these months, and those months are slower sales months because, it's January, February, March, whatever. That's a slower time of the year in sales tax processing, whatever. That's part of the game of the job. But the other thing is when it's over. So the state distributes, $10 million or $100 million in August, right? Or $80 million and $20 million in property taxes and whatever else come in. And total is $100 million. But in all the departments and stuff, only $80 million is going back out. It's the trustee's job to do something with that extra $20 million to make sure it's available when it's needed, but not spend it on. They're not allowed to spend it on things, but to put it somewhere in savings.
Yeah.
And so they get the discretion of what kind of savings it's in. So, like, he could put it in a 6-month CD, just with a regular bank. Just walk to the bank, be like, "Hey, I'm the trustee for Knox County. I got $20 million. Can I put this in your bank? What kind of rate should you give me for it?" And so that's the game that they can play. That's really the major discretion. And the big complaint, and I don't disagree with him on it, is that currently, don't know why Ed Schaus is doing it the way he's doing it, but currently there's like $200 million in various banks that's county money right now, collecting 0.63%, give or take, interest.
Yeah.
And so it's like, why is that the best we can do with that? Apparently, like, U.S. Treasury bonds right now are at like 3 and some change %, but they're like 1 year or something like that. I don't remember what the specifics are, but essentially, he's like, I would be putting at least some of that, if not all of that, into U.S. Treasury bonds where we're getting 3 or 4% back. $200 million on 2.5%. That's $5 million a year.
All right.
That we could just add to next year's budget. We didn't do anything for it. We didn't take it out of your pocket as a taxpayer, but that's $5 million extra dollars that we can spend on this. Maybe the commission and mayor's office will add that to the school's budget. He doesn't know. He doesn't have a choice in where the county spends that money. But if he can get more return on the savings, it's a win for the county.
Sure.
And so I kind of like that. I haven't got to talk to Biggs yet. Biggs is on my agenda. I tried to get him this week, but he's got some scheduling stuff. So I'm going to keep working on that. I'll get Biggs in here eventually. But it's just such a weird job. Like, I mean, partisanship doesn't matter. There's no policy they can do. I don't think that the Democrats or the Republicans have a rule about what the smartest way to save money is. I don't think they have a Republican platform on, and I mean, I guess theoretically, to use the taxpayers' money to the best of your abilities, spend as little as you have to. Spending as little as you have to, I mean, if you can kick in that $5-7 million a year because you invest it well, that means we don't have to raise taxes next year or something like that. It's a win. So, but again, there's no policy. I mean, there's no partisanship to it, which is why I like Kaz, because he's a super partisan Democrat, former Republican, just hates what Republicans have become, and so became a Democrat for it. So he's not really a Democrat either. He's just a anti-Republican. And in the sad world we live in, there is no other option. You're either a Republican or you're a Democrat. You can't be both. both or neither, which is what I got in my fight with him.
Yeah.
It's this guy Brian.
Do we have to?
Can
we not?
No, you don't have to.
Thank you.
All right, well, give me something to talk about. We can talk about
see,
praying in football games.
Ghislaine Maxwell got sentenced today.
No, see, that's what it is. That's what it is. That is why the Roe Wade thing came out, is to cover up the Maxwell. Go
Yeah,
on.
because it wasn't in the news at all. Everyone, no one talked about it.
I didn't hear about it.
I had to dig on the
We'll
dark
see.
web to find out.
We'll see. I'm a couple days behind on my my current events, and they spent the entire episode from Monday, almost the entire episode, on the Roe v. Wade stuff. So it might come out in tomorrow's episode, and I should hold my tongue. Nonetheless, whether my conspiracy stupid shit is real or not, what happened? Tell me about it.
She got sentenced to 20 years.
For what?
Essentially sex trafficking and I think maybe endangerment of...
That sucks. I wish you...
I don't remember what the exact... She already got found guilty, but they just now did the sentence.
She should have served no time. No time, because she rats everybody out. I want all the names. Give her all sorts of plea deals. I want to know all the names. I want the black book. I mean, sure, she deserves it, but I mean, are we assuming that there's nothing going on here? It's just a couple of random dudes.
Just not prosecutor.
I'm not saying not prosecutor. I'm saying cut her a deal.
Well, you're saying she shouldn't get anything,
right? Like,
No.
you
So
20.
You're guilty, but here's a slap on the wrist.
Right. You can either spend 20 years in jail, or you can tell us the names, and you can spend 20 years on probation on your private island. I will go with the latter. I'll take option 2.
Yeah.
I would like that. I mean, we do it all the time. I mean, it's not a uncommon practice.
Oh, I agree.
In the legal system. I agree that it's kind of a bummer, and especially when it's really gross shit. Like, there was the one here we were talking about a couple weeks ago that Constance had turned me on to. It was white kid, black kid, go in and rob a convenience store. The white kid shoots the clerk, makes a deal, turns on the black. One of the black kids was like 12, so he didn't count. He got minored out, but the other one was like 16 at the time. The white kid that actually did the shooting gets a plea deal or pleas out, and doesn't pin the shooting on him, but just pins the other guy as the accessory, and the other guy got like 50 years as like an 18-year-old, 16, 17-year-old or something like that.
Have you found that case?
But he pled out. I'd have to relook it up, but it's. I mean, I was watching a little documentary on it. It was because Constance. I'll have to go back and find it, but Hornbeck had was talking about that. What was it? The minimum sentence requirement thing, minimum required sentences.
Oh yeah.
That was signed off of, and Hornbeck had a story on it, and he used a random. I don't know if it was a random picture, but he did a picture. This one. He pulled a picture off of like WBR's website of a kid getting arrested. Oh no, I'm sorry. I take that back. I apologize. The Hornbeck story was about the cop that was in the picture who just died, and so that was the one picture you could find of the cop. But the kid in the foreground is Almir Nance. 51 years behind bars. I can send you this link. We could watch it on here if you want to. Be kind of stretching the copyright rules.
Yeah. But
anyway, yeah, the Almir Nance case is essentially that's my basic understanding of it is, and again, the black white shouldn't really matter, but for the simplification of the story, I added the black white, but it does matter realistically.
Yeah. I mean, it is the case sometimes. It's the first one to essentially flip, or the first one to start talking.
Yeah. And I mean, to me, the problem with that is that wins matter.
Right, but I would think the judge should also be able to look at the facts of the case and decide more of that as well. But sometimes they're basically deciding upon whatever the prosecutor's office is bringing to them.
But I mean, but the problem with it to me is that if the DA's office rule of thumb is a win and a half, meaning you got this one kid for 50 years, you got this other kid for at least some sort of probation and stuff like that. It's a win and a half versus the chance of a loss. We'll take the win and a half. Who cares? It's like, well, that's not justice. Sure, it was fucked up that this kid was taking part in this robbery or whatever, but he didn't actually shoot the guy.
Right.
You know, and I mean, that's another issue in the law too, which is not a racial issue per se. There's another issue in the law too. It's like, I get it. I understand the premise behind the idea. If you and I go rob a grocery store and the plan is, we talk about the plan, we're just going to go take the money. I'm going to wave my gun, but I'm not going to actually shoot anybody. And I do shoot somebody. You're as guilty as I am of murder?
No. You would get murder. I would get accessory to murder.
Right, which apparently is good for 51 years. So you might as well get murder. Because that's what he got. He didn't get charged with the murder. He got charged with accessory or whatever.
Right.
Anyway, so, you know, versus if you and I plan to go rob a grocery store and kill the people. I think there's a difference in the two. Even if I do the physical killing, but you and I plan it together, like I'm going to shoot the guy, then you go get in the safe. If that's the plan, that's different than if you are unaware in the process that I'm going to go kill people, you should be held to the same account.
Yeah, it should depend on the circumstances of the case.
But I get it. But again, I get it on the legal standpoint of like, how do you differentiate that if you really want to try to? Because again, that goes back to my stupid purge question.
That would be more of, in the case, in the event of that, is if I tried to walk away.
Right. And conspiracy to commit.
Right.
But again, that goes back, I guess.
Like I said, even if there was no planning, I had no knowledge of it, but I was there when you started to do it.
Right.
If I did nothing to take myself out of that situation, that's when it does get into a little bit of a gray area. But
but it's still, I'm waving the gun and screaming, "I'm going to shoot you, motherfucker!" That's part of the plan.
I'm saying without a plan. I thought you were going on the case that I was unaware of it.
Right. Well, the plan. Okay, so the more innocent version for you is that our plan, as we discussed, is we're going to go. I got the gun. I'm going to hold the gun in the guy's face. You get the money and shit, and then we'll run. So part of the process of me holding the gun to the guy's face, I'm going to shoot you, motherfucker. I'm going to talk shit at the same time, right?
I'm saying there was no plan to begin with.
No.
I thought that's what you were saying.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. I think it's a weird. Like, I get it both ways, but again, I guess what I'm getting at too is that it goes back to that purge question. I think there's a moral difference in theft or robbery and murder. I think there's a line there in morality. I think both of them are immoral, but I think there's different levels to it. But do you shoot? Do you not go around shooting people because it's illegal, or do you not go around shooting people because it's immoral? Does it matter if it's illegal or not?
Does it matter?
Like the consequences that you're going to get change because of the legalities of it, but like just in the general sense of being a part of civilization at large, does the legal side of murder really matter versus the morality side of it? Do the majority of people not shoot people because it's illegal?
I think that goes into some of the mental calculation of it, yeah. I mean, many psychologists and sociologists have said, sometimes the predominance of the crime is your own perception of your ability to get away with it. That's why you see a lot of, just kind of like simple petty theft of like shoplifting.
Right.
They know there's not that many loss prevention people walking around, and they can probably get away with it. That's where they're more likely to do these smaller crimes that people can get away with.
Right, but again, that being the thought process, saying that I think I can get away with it, still means that the morality, there's some sense of morality in there that says,
it's definitely, I mean, it's definitely part of both, but I think people also take in the legal ramifications as well. And in the heat of the moment, it's probably just their morale at that time.
I'll agree with you too on certain crimes.
Right.
Obviously, I mean, weed's illegal, but I have no issues with people smoking weed around me. I'm not going to rat them out. I would smoke if I enjoyed it, if I didn't get sick every time I did. But and so I assess the more there's the moral relativism to me on whether that is a criminal, like whether I feel like that's an immoral act that deserves the criminality attached to it.
But I mean, as far as murder, there's other countries that have what's it called, like honor killings. I remember seeing a little documentary on that. It was somewhere in like Eastern Europe or
Is that when they throw gay guys off the roof of the building in the Iran or whatever?
No.
Oh.
If someone
is it legal?
Yeah.
I mean, I could say. I mean, Okay, continue. Like, what is the premise?
It's basically if someone like killed your family member, I think there are like, it depends on the situation. I think it has to be like an immediate family member. It can't be like, oh, it was my fifth cousin or whatever. I deserve retribution. But
so it's an eye for an eye kind of deal.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay. I think that's I think that's justifiable in general. I mean, I could see how that could be morally justifiable. Well, I mean, that's a good example though, because that could be morally justifiable here. You know, somebody walks in my house, shoots me in the face, but it doesn't kill me, then goes and executes my family.
Yeah.
And neighbors call the police and the ambulance shows up, take me, they fix me up, and I wake up from a coma 2 weeks later to find out that my family's dead and the cops can't find the guy that did it. And I find the guy that did it. I would feel morally justified in killing that person. Sure.
Should you deserve any charges for it?
It's a hard one.
Yeah.
I mean, bottom line to me, if it's provable that I'm right and the state isn't going through their process to do it, then no, I don't think so. And that'd be a weird set of circumstances, I suppose.
There's been many cases of it, and there's some juries that have let people off. I think can say for certainty. But it is one thing when you get to a jury trial where people are kind of like weighing that. They're like, well, if somebody killed my family, like, I'd be pretty angry too, and I would want that other person dead.
Right. That's the point of the peers thing, I suppose. Ice-T owning the universe. I love you, Ice-T. Nice. I didn't mean to pick it up. I wasn't trying to pull it up. I don't know if it's actually even Ice-T. It's a screenshot of an Ice-T tweet.
Yeah.
For the record, I'm not a Democrat and I'm not a Republican, so you could miss me with all your left-right talk. Both wings are on the same bird. Boom, bitches. I agree with that one. That's what that was. That was the core of the argument I was having with this Brian fellow. I'm going to bring it up. I'm sorry. Let me get it out and we'll stop. Essentially, this Brian fellow doesn't like me because I platform right-wingers on my show, and I like to poke at Democrats being stupid. And so by allowing right-wingers on my show and poking at Democrats being stupid, that makes me a Republican, and he hates Republicans. And so it's like, dude, I'm not a Republican. And he's like, you're a MAGA, this, that, and the other. And it's like, okay, fine, whatever. I give up. And so that was the gist of it. Because I was complaining to somebody else about how stupid this thing is that's going on right now with the abortion stuff. And he decided to chime in. So, Brian, you could suck it in your stupid Facebook group. I'm going to keep posting my videos there, though. You can suck it until you kick me out of your group. It's his group.
Yeah.
But it's also like, I mean, he's got a handful of followers on it, but he's the only one that ever posts in the group, other than me when I post shows in there. I post interview shows in there. I don't post this show in there. I just post the interview shows that we do because he says it's the name of the Facebook group is Knox County Politics. So when I do Knox County Politics shows, I share them to his group because I thought that was the idea of his group. But it's really he's just a super Democrat and like angry super Democrat and wants to do Democrat stuff. So when I post a Republican show in there, he yells at me and it's like, I mean, okay, buddy.
Have the Republican shows outweighed the Democrat shows and what you've
No, I mean, honestly, for the most part, Democrats seem to be a little easier for me to put together. Like, they seem to be easier schedule-wise and stuff like that. I did call out Debbie.
I mean, as quantity of ones that you've, I guess, posted to his group.
No, I mean,
is there any reason for him to think that you just keep throwing GOP candidates in there?
If I haven't posted them all, it was by accident. Like, generally speaking, I share the post. I share the Facebook post version of the show to every group that lets me do it. I've had one group kick me out for it, which is fine. But because the point to me, I mean, the whole point of what this show has turned into for me in general, but this part's more of us talking part, but the interview episodes, stuff like that it's I don't know where else to get good in depth whatever on these people, and so I go out and try to get it myself, and I assume I'm not the only one. And somebody who was so into it that they start a Facebook group called Knox County Politics, I figure they're into it too, but they're only into it for one side, Which, again, that's fine. That's his choice. He can live his life that way. I'm not trying to tell him not to. But he's kind of a dick about it, and I don't like it. I don't appreciate it being dickish.
Yeah, we can all be that.
Yeah, I can. I 100% can. And I will.
No.
And I'd do it again.
You're teddy bear.
I did spat with the Knox Dems page again this week, and not really. They just did a post about how Glenn Jacobs is dodging Debbie Hensley and not doing any forums or debates this year, which, whatever. That's a separate conversation. We can go into that. And that he's been hard to get to, and this kind of he's been inaccessible as far as this campaign's gone. And I said, yeah, he has. He hasn't done Mind Show, and neither has Debbie. And that was my post on there.
Yeah.
And which, I have talked to her campaign a couple times months ago.
Right, but you started out giving her shit on Facebook. That doesn't really incline people to warm up to want to be on a sit down with you.
Matt told him to talk to me.
That's going to make him want to do it, too.
Matt's the boss. That's what he does.
Yeah. Everyone does what Matt says.
Oh. If the argument is they want accessibility, they want people to be, if they want to be accessible, if the complaint is that their opponent is inaccessible to the public, and the public is asking to be for access, and you're saying no, then it kind of makes you a hypocrite, right? I agree. I 100% agree. I think it's bullshit. The not Republicans in the city races all skipped every single forum that was put on for the city races. I think one of the Republican candidates for the city races went to one of the forums that was put on in all the different city races, and there were like 5 or 6 forums. They all skipped them all for one reason or the other. Main excuse, whatever, bullshit. League of Women Voters here in Knox County, whether you agree or not that they're nonpartisan, they will put a debate forum up for every single thing that is on the ballot.
I think it was for city elections. I saw one with, so they're watching some of it with Tommy and what was the other South Knoxville?
David Hayes?
David Hayes, yeah.
Not David Hayes anymore.
Yeah, right. I think it was at maybe a school. It was real small. I think it was only like 2 or 3 candidates that were there, and it probably was just for that district.
But Liz Piss-Drink and Murphy should have been there, and she wasn't.
Right.
Across the board, they didn't do it. And as far as I know right now, I haven't heard of anybody actually putting any on for this cycle right now. It's like, I'd do it.
Well, maybe they thought no one would show up. Maybe they just think everything's online now. They're like, oh, we'll just find online ads.
Yeah, but so the Compass guys were talking about this. That was actually the question of the week from Compass readers for the Compass show was like, what's the deal with Mary Jacobs dodging these? And they didn't go into it specifically against Mary Jacobs, but it's like, in general, in recent history, well-funded, well-liked incumbents avoid them. Because what's the point? So like if I'm Mayor Jacobs and I truly think that Debbie Hensley doesn't hold a candle in this race, why would I do a forum? It's a potential loss for me with no real upside. It doesn't seem like a good idea. There's no real upside. It's a potential loss. Apparently the public doesn't seem too upset by his refusal to debate her. So
it just didn't even cross a lot of people's minds.
Right. That's what I'm saying, right? Most people don't even pay attention to it. So what's it matter? And so on a strategic standpoint, it makes total sense. Why would you? And then the Compass guys go in a little further. It does seem to be a right issue. The right seems to be avoiding it more than not. Because, you take the Mary Jacobs example and put that against, one of the city races, Elizabeth Murphy, for example, in District 1, she's not a known political figure in town. She hasn't been around for a while. She hasn't done a lot of campaigns. She hasn't held office before. She hasn't run before. So just for exposure, there's value to her. Tommy Smith is the well-funded, well-liked incumbent. He shows up. If you're the opponent, you should show up because it gives you at least a tiny bit of credibility.
Was he well-funded?
I mean, for a city race.
Was it?
Of the 3 of them, yeah. But I don't know how much we could go look it up, but comparatively, I'm pretty sure he was okay.
Yeah. He seemed pretty down to earth. I didn't think it was kind of
a big
he's
nice
money.
Stuff, dude. Yeah. We made an offer on a house in his district today, so I plan to...
Like how he was at least saying that he was going door to door.
Yeah. I mean, he seems to be an on-the-ground kind of guy. I mean, that's how he did it, and he has promised. Actually, no, I got to remember. Oh, I have to go back and look at that Compass episode.
Did he make political promises to you?
No, the city. There's different rules on
campaign promises.
What was it? Knox County. God, I'm trying to remember this. It's going to drive me nuts. The city and county are opposite in their term limit rules, or in their terms rules. I think it's the city. It only counts as a term if it's a full term. In the county, it counts as a term if it's 1 day.
Right. So they essentially served in
that
office.
So if you get appointed to a seat, the last day the seat exists because they have to appoint somebody for some reason, which politically speaking you would avoid it, but whatever. And you become the incumbent and you run again, you could have the job for 4 years and 1 day.
Right.
A partial term is an entire term according to the county. Where the city is, it's only a full term that counts. And so you could be appointed the day after swearing in of everybody else.
Right, but it's not a full term.
But since it's not a full term, you can do 2 full terms. And so I think because Tommy got appointed to that seat.
Right.
And I believe that's the promise that I'm trying to... this is why it's important if I got those right or not. Because I believe he stated publicly that this would be... He would count... This is his second term that he's running, that he ran for and just got last year.
Yeah.
And so he will not run again. Well, right. He will not run again
for city council.
But he can run for city council. And I don't know if city has the consecutive term rule. Because most county offices are consecutive terms only. You can hold the seat as many times as you want, only twice in a row.
Right.
So you can be county commissioner twice, take a term off, be county commissioner twice, take a term off, be county commissioner twice, take a term off. I'm curious on the other rule, though, is can you be, like for me, if I'm in District 6 or 4, can I hold 2 terms in District 4 and then run for an at-large? And then have 2 forms in the at-large 10 and then run for at-large 11 and have 2 more terms at at-large 11. I don't know the rules on that.
No idea.
I don't know why anyone would want to do that, because in those, if you did it and pulled it off, you would have 8, 12, 24 years at like $17,000 a year. It's not like you're going to be getting paid fat. Although, God, I have to look back at that. What was it? I was really proud of Kyle. Kyle voted against something yesterday, and I liked it. I can't remember. He was the lone no. And I could not remember what it was.
I hope it was that letter that Zachary drafted that all the big GOP people are jumping behind it. I don't know if you'd heard about it. They're basically trying to prevent the state from providing vaccines to children under 5. Basically like the Tennessee Health Department. They're basically trying to stop the health department from even doing that.
I mean, no, I'll shut up. Moving on. I don't know. Fuck. I wish I would take notes on that. That would have been a good thing to know.
You can find it.
No, I can't find it. It was just something in passing. Like, I mean, it's in Compass, so I could do it that way. I know I was reading it in the Compass Daily.
I read about a Nashville district GOP meeting. It's the same district. There's 3 people that I guess the state GOP decided ineligible for the upcoming elections. But I guess they had some kind of forum or roundtable of all the candidates. One of them was former, I think, House Speaker of Tennessee. They were kind of asking them different hot-button questions, and some of them, I want to say it was at least like half were for repealing the 17th Amendment, which allows the populace to vote for senators. They basically wanted to take that power and give it back to the legislatures, which I thought was kind of odd.
That is kind of odd.
I think highly unethical, but I could see how it would benefit one party versus the other.
Yeah, my email.
Depending on the state. What? I think some even said they were on board for impeaching Biden as well if they were elected.
For what?
I don't think it gave any specific cause. I think it just said they were.
I mean,
they would vote to impeach him.
I mean, that's not unfathomable, for lack of a better word. I don't know. I can't find it. Amelia Parker's got a couple of cool ones going in city right now. She's trying to get some ballot items.
Cool what? Oh, ballot items.
Yeah, wants to change some of the budget process for city races, or for city, the budget process for the city. And then apparently her first attempt at running for District 3. I don't remember what it was. First time she ran for city council was for a specific district. She's at large A or B right now. But she tied for second in the primary. And so the rule on the books is if there's a tie in a primary, city council gets to vote on the tiebreaker. And so she's wanting to change it from I don't remember whatever the current terminology is, to top two vote getters, basically. So total, you're tied for, instead of top two per people, it's top two vote receivers, which would make it 3 people in the odd event that it was a tie, which is a weird one because, I mean, the odds of that happening again are pretty low.
I heard it brought up again. I think I remember talking about it before when I heard about it from another state, but I guess it happened again in some of the recent primaries, and I think it was some kind of Midwestern state. But they had a tie, and I guess on the law books it gets down to they draw lots, like whoever draws the longest stick, and I think that's literally how they do it. It's like a bundle of twigs or whatever.
I mean, it kind of makes sense, sadly. Like, realistically, I mean, 50% of the 50% of the voting population wants A, 50% of the voting population wants B.
It just seems like an odd process. I mean, if both candidates are okay with that, have at it.
The idea, I mean, I agree with you.
I just think it's an odd law that's still in like the election books. Like, what do we do if there's a tie? Like, get a mason jar,
right?
If a bunch of cinnamon sticks.
If we didn't live in a world where the R or the D after the person's names had a huge difference in what happens tomorrow, then it should be, I mean, realistically, that should be okay. But since, now this becomes a Republican stronghold because the Republicans are now doing the things because Republicans everywhere else or whatever, like that kind of shit. Like, theoretically, if you get down to it, like, it could be like in Tennessee, for example, like District 18.
I think they can only do it for like actual like party races. I don't know about.
Oh, it's only for primaries? Well, then it doesn't fucking matter either.
I think it's just for primaries. I hope they don't do that for general as well.
I mean, and here's my unpopular opinion that I will stick to. I don't think we should participate in primaries. If you want to vote in a primary, then you need to be a active party member and go to your fucking convention and select your candidate. It should not be a public vote. That's stupid.
I think I sent you a text about it or whatever. It was either like Portland or Seattle that started doing, and I think it was for their primaries because this is what's going on now, but they had more of a ranked choice voting. Or maybe I think they may have voted to maybe do that for the next election. But I think there's a handful of states that kind of do it. But I think doing primaries that way is good, and having the general populace have everyone on there.
Right. It's an open primary with a different format. I mean, essentially that's what the city does. The city is an open primary. Any candidate running for the seat is on there. And you just vote. You just vote for one, and the top 2 go through.
Yeah.
Unless it's Amelia Parker and she ties for second, and then she doesn't get it. But I mean, that's better. I mean, that's better than, because I don't care about the party. Like, why is there an obligation that? Because I mean, okay, so like for Tennessee is a great example. Like District 18 last election, not this election, by far, because as far as I can tell, Elaine Davis and Testerman are essentially the same person, so it doesn't fucking matter really who you primary for, as far as I can tell. But last time when it was Manis, Oster, and then Couch, if that was an open primary, the general would have been Manis versus Oster, and then Manis probably still would have won, because that was Oster's complaint, was that people crossed over to vote for Manis to get him through the primary. Yeah. But realistically, between the 3 candidates, I liked Virginia Couch. I thought she was cool. But between the 3 candidates, as far as who felt to me like the most kind of middle of the road, somebody that I could count on, trustworthy, all that kind of bullshittery, I thought Maness was the right candidate. And so had we had an open primary, I think we would have had a better general. And what that would really do long term is that would change the Republican Party from the further right candidate winning a primary to the further center candidate winning primaries. And then we have more likely, what's the word, that big evil word, compromise happening on things. Because I mean, realistically, because I mean, like, again, taking that District 18 race as an example is that, I mean, whoever the Republican was going to win, because that's how we vote in District 18 traditionally. And luckily enough, we had enough crossover votes to get Maness as the Republican. But, you know, take the names off, take the R and the D off, and start talking policy stuff. I think most people are probably on board with Maness. Most people don't care about LGBTQ issues. They really don't. They're made to care because of politics and all the bullshit that's going on, because that gets an Oster-type candidate to win. That gets a Trump candidate, whatever. But they don't really care. Most Americans don't care. I won't say don't care about abortion. I don't know what the right wording is. Most Americans, statistically, polling data shows, most Americans are not opposed to abortion, period. Now, where on the spectrum and when it's okay and when it's not, that's a bunch of conversation. But 0 is not the consensus. And 41 weeks is not the consensus either. It's somewhere there in the middle. But by having the primaries the way we do the primaries, we get the candidate that says 0. Or we get the candidate that says 41 weeks. We don't get the candidates that say...
Where are you getting this 41 weeks from?
It's a fucking joke.
Okay, sorry.
But late term, because late term has been a topic of conversation, and there are the extreme left candidates that believe in late term abortion. But the way we do primaries promotes that candidate as opposed to one that's more reasonable at like the 20-week mark, which seems to be kind of a general consensus where it's like, okay, this is right at the edge of whatever, but okay. On that particular issue. But whatever the issue is, it's like the way we primary pushes right or pushes left. It doesn't push towards what I believe is actually average. And that's the problem with the primary system, which is why I say close the primaries. Don't even primary at all. Hold a convention, put up your candidate, and then let other parties in. I would even go so far as say you have to be affiliated with the party, and your party has to.
So how's it decided who's on the general?
Everybody's on the general.
Oh, okay.
Because there is no primary. It would literally be... So, for District 18, for example, I don't know if it'd be... I guess it'd be the state party. It might be the county party. But the Republican Party of the state of Tennessee would put Elaine Davis on the ticket for the Republicans for District 18 in November. The state party would put Greg Kaplan, because Greg Kaplan's the only Democrat running. They'd hold their convention. They'd have Kaplan. So on the Republican side, if they hold their convention, who wants to run for 18? Who wants to hold 18 seat? People raise their hands. They talk about it. They pick a person. That's that. It sucks. It's gross, but at least it's clear. It doesn't make sense. Like, you know, if it's supposed to be about the party and the party values, then let the party and the party values put it together. Don't make that a voting thing. It doesn't make sense. Because most people are not actually Republicans. Most people aren't actually Democrats. They lean one way or the other. And so they primary one way or the other. And so then those primaries are a result of my leanings, not my actual values.
I can see that.
Okay, so I put this up to the group. I would have liked to have multiple inputs on this, but so Saturday I put the topic a topic idea up, and we've been talking about the Roe v. Wade stuff already. But you know, some companies, Dick's Sports is one of them, for example, that I know for a fact that Dick's Sports, if you're an employee of Dick's Sports and you want to if you have a need for an abortion, they will help a certain amount. There's a fixed number, but it's like $3,000, $5,000 for travel, so you can go travel where if you're in a state where it's not legal.
I think Disney even jumped in on that too.
Right. There's a number of companies that are doing it.
Yeah.
Which I find interesting. Like, I find it interesting in the sense that there were companies like, you know, because your initial response was, isn't that basically lobbying or whatever? Okay, let me go back into it. So the question I'm asking in all this is, when or is it appropriate for a private company to demand government change policy in order for them to do business in their state? Now, Dick's is not demanding that. They're not saying, hey, Tennessee, we're going to shut down all our Dick's stores in Tennessee and take all those jobs and revenue with us if you don't change your laws. But it has been done on other topics before. You know, what comes to mind for me is Georgia. I think it was Georgia passed a trans bathroom bill or something stupid. And there's a bunch of film industry that moved into Georgia. Like, Georgia apparently has more...
it's like the new Hollywood or something.
Right, has more studios and more film industry personnel than any other state, than California right now, or something like that. Something crazy. Anyway. Yeah. And so, like, I can't remember who the studios were, but they were like, we're going to pull our production out of your state. We're going to take our production company out of your state if you keep this law on the books. Which I find generally to be inappropriate. Like,
wasn't it like the World Series or something got moved out of
Was it the World Series? All-Star game.
All-Star game, that's what it was, yeah.
You know, so anyway, I mean, the point is, like, so it's an interesting little exchange of quote private industry and government. Like, I don't know, like, I'm surprised we haven't seen it yet, I guess is what I'm saying, is part of it, because it's different than lobbying, because your initial response isn't incorrect. Isn't that kind of like lobbying, or you said isn't that basically corporate lobbying? Anyway, usually corporate lobbying, at least as I consider it, is when it's like, you know, hey, Tennessee, we'd like to build in your state. We like your tax brackets. We like all the different stuff. We think our employees will like working there. Can you help us with X, Y, or Z? That's the pilots and the TIF programs. That's the, hey, EPA, you know, we're going to, or, you know, hey, President X, Y, or Z, we're going to donate a bunch of money. Help us get the EPA or the FDA or whoever on board with this process that we're doing, even though it's a little bit outside of the technical.
I would say more often than not that corporate lobbying is for already established companies in that state.
Either way, but right. But either way,
it's less likely of
right. You know, like
the precursor to bringing in companies.
Right. Like North Carolina. You know, North Carolina hates pot. That's why North Carolina won't. Well, North Carolina doesn't hate pot. Asheville specifically loves pot, but North Carolina governmentally hates pot because one of the biggest donors in the state of North Carolina is R.J. Reynolds or Philip Morris or both. You know, so Big Tobacco is a big company there, and so when Big Tobacco says, "Hey, that's not good for us," the government responds locally. For example, recently, I was doing some reading. The FDA is banning Juuls again.
It's already been stayed.
Oh, good. Anyway, they're trying to ban Juuls again, whatever.
Yeah.
And was reading through the article about it, and like it actually broke my brain for a second. Like, I was really struggling to actually process what I read. So the FDA says, you know, yes, we understand that there are some people that are using devices like the Juul, for example, to help them quit smoking because they think smoking's worse than whatever. And they said, well, for those people that are using Juuls who are going to lose access to their Juuls when we pass this, as a result of this ban that we're putting in place, we recommend that you switch to the Views product. That's an R.J. Reynolds product.
This was an official statement put out?
This was in the article. It was a quote in the article that I shared to the conversation. And then in the next paragraph, they're talking about how in studies, Views is a more common use product for under 21 vapors. It is one of the most popular. I think it said. I think the quote was that it's twice as popular as Juul among minor vapors, according to the CDC.
Right, I read that CDC.
Right, so the FDA is sending one of the reasons why the FDA is going after Juuls in the first place is because it's attractive to kids. So the FDA's response to that is, let's send them to this other product that is already proven to be more attractive to kids.
I'll have to reread. I don't think I read the article you read. I did actually look up and found the CDC study.
That was the article you shared with me, I think. Let me find it. Let me find out. Sharon. Where's it at? Where you at? Was it in the group?
I'm reluctant to think that they actually advocated one.
I mean, it's from Fox Business. Is Fox Business an appropriate news source? Is it as bad as the rest of Fox News?
I don't know. I don't read it, so I can't speak much to their content, to be honest.
All right, so this is posted on June 23rd. Blah, 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 blah. Back here at the end. Here we go. All right, so critics have blamed Juul for allegedly targeting teens in marketing with concerns about the rise of youth vaping in recent years. The FDA in its press release directed smokers who want to quit to consider using other e-cigarette products the agency has authorized for use, such as R.J. Reynolds Vuse products. According to the CDC, Vuse e-cigarettes were found to be nearly twice as popular among high schoolers who vape on Juul products. Am I reading that wrong?
No.
Okay. So the FDA is trying to kill the product that is less popular with kids and telling people to use the product that's more popular with kids, even though they're not saying they want the kids to use that one. But it's also Vuse, which is the R.J. Reynolds product. I don't know how we got.
Click on the actual CDC study, because I'm pretty sure when I read it, it didn't say this. It sounds more like Fox Business has put words into the CDC's mouth.
Oh, Jesus. According to the Center for Disease CDC report last year, Vuse e-cigarettes were found to be nearly twice as popular among high schoolers.
Right.
Than Juul.
Which is true, that the numbers that they do. I don't remember when this actual CDC study was done. And at the time, I think Juul probably was the biggest.
Okay, their
I think that goes back into why they've targeted Juul. It's just been an ongoing thing, because they were the biggest thing 3 or 4 years ago. So it's just been ongoing litigation.
The overall use among teens, or whatever the fuck this is, by brand, Puff Bars were number one.
Right.
They're a dead product. They
almost sent that to you. I'm like, actually, Puff Bar was more popular, according to this.
Vuse is 200,000, Juul's 130. All right, that's a little bit of an exaggeration to say almost twice as much.
I think they were going off. I think it talks about percentages further down of of age group studied. It was 10% said they used Juul and 40% said they used Vuse or whatever. I think it's when they were going off percentage of those that were.
This one says percentage says 6.8, percentage at 10.5.
Yeah.
So twice of 6.8 is 13.4. 10.5 is well short of twice. So it's a little bit. It's a little bit of an exaggeration. I apologize.
But again, I don't know why they're throwing in the other companies. It sounds like they're advocating it more than the CDC was.
I think the way that reads to me is that the FDA directed smokers who want to quit to consider other e-cigarette projects the agency has authorized for use, such as R.J. Reynolds. So I don't know what the list is. It doesn't give us that list of what the FDA does say you could use. So I agree with you that would maybe they picked that pairing out because of this fact at the bottom. I mean, I agree with what you're saying. Like they picked that pairing out, the Vuse Juul pairing.
Yeah.
But I mean, hell.
Because I think it was basically the authorization was, which you basically had to prove that it was actually helping, that it was for the benefit of the health of the general public, that it was to help them quit smoking. Right. I guess for whatever reason, the report that they wrote up, according to Fox Business, the FDA approved Vuse for this therapeutic, not necessarily, but
I wonder why.
Is it corporate lobbying?
How would you put that on R.J. Reynolds? That's where we started this whole thing. We were talking about North Carolina hates cigarettes, or hates non-cigarette smoking alternatives, except for Vuse, because R.J. Reynolds is headquartered.
Juul's owned by Philip Morris.
Really?
I think they're both. Yeah.
I think they got bought by.
I think it was a couple of years ago. Philip Morris bought them out.
That's not. I do remember
because I thought they were getting ready to go under, and I thought it was Philip Morris that bought.
I do remember them getting bought, but it wasn't one of the big two here. It was. It's one of the import companies. I remember reading about that, but I don't believe. I could be wrong. Oh my God, Noah, that is gross.
I was about to say, is that tuna?
It is strawberry Pop-Tarts, tuna, pickles, honey mustard, maple syrup, and soy sauce.
My goodness.
As a sandwich.
Interesting.
I would have much rather put you on the show for any other reason than that, Noah, but there you go. Noah, G-Man in the house. Anyway, before that, I didn't mean to go down the e-cigarette FDA's retarded rule conversation.
Yeah, we were talking about corporate lobbying and
as
far as if businesses
Right, but usually it's stuff like that. It's where their corporate lobbyists are trying to stop laws that affect them or encourage laws that affect their competitors. Generally speaking, it's not one because, I mean, theoretically, an abortion ban in the state of Tennessee doesn't affect business for Dick's Sports. I mean, I guess you could stretch the argument and say, well, I might lose an employee for their maternity leave, which I would be curious what Dick's Sports policy is on maternity leave. It's probably not great. But, hey, you know, they don't have to have the kid. I don't have to put them on maternity leave. I don't have to worry about outages, so that helps. But really on a functional day-to-day, I don't think Dick's really has a functional need for abortions to be available for their staff. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
So on a business standpoint, it's not normal lobbying. Because, again, like my argument is that lobbying in general is either something to... They're lobbying to not have a law passed that affects them negatively, or to have a law passed that affects competitors negatively. So this one doesn't apply. Neither does the LGBTQ thing in Georgia that we were talking about to start with. It doesn't really apply.
As far as paying for transportation out of state, yes, that's not really lobbying. I was responding
I agree.
Your question is when...
Right. I'm not trying to say that Dick's is currently doing it, but the question is when. Well, let me. When is it appropriate, or is it appropriate for private companies to demand something like that? Because again, I don't think Dick's is doing it, and there's a list of companies that are doing it. Starbucks is one of them, which is fucking hilarious. Because of Starbucks' situation with their labor problems. So they're going to let you get an abortion so you don't unionize on them. Good luck. But, you know, there's a number of companies that are like that. But because, again, like I could see it being a thing where a Starbucks or a Dick's or some of these big companies are like, hey, you know, Tennessee, we're not okay with this. This is a problem for us and our employees. I could see them lobbying on behalf of this for the social aspect of it because, you know, especially like a Starbucks who tries to be like a woke company. I could see them using this as a political commercial device
they've
for
had
marketing.
Some better benefits than most companies. I'm pretty sure they offer pretty subsidized tuition reimbursement.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that too, but at the same time, it's like, well, why is all your staff why are you having union issues if you're one of the better ones? I guess they all suck, and because
could be one of those give an inch, take a mile.
Well, it's also, you know, you spend the money to educate them, and they realize that they're getting fucked.
True.
And they're like, oh, shit.
Well, and I can't imagine the crowd they see as well. I can't remember the last time I actually went into a Starbucks.
I don't do it. Like, fuck those. Fuck that shit. Jesus Christ. I can't understand that. The AC's a junkie.
Some of the coffee does taste good. I'll give them that. But I mean, they're dealing with a different set of... Like
Knox Plaza over here, the Hamburg, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
There's that new... There's one right there in front of the Kroger by that Chick-fil-A and shit.
Yeah.
Like, I was in there at... 8:45, 9 o'clock this morning. Mm-hmm. I was going into that Kroger.
Yeah.
And it was 2 laps around the building for their drive-thru.
Yeah.
Like, I like my coffee. But I'm not going to wait 30 minutes for a cup of coffee. Right. I don't understand that. Like, I understand. Like, it is...
People like their brands. They like the flavors that they have. They like the taste of their coffee.
And again, I can respect all of that.
You came in when everyone was trying to go to work.
At 10? 9?
Oh,
that's what I'm saying.
Like, it was 8:45.
I mean, 8:45 is still, you know, you're not going to make it on time to work. I mean, I don't know.
Depending. Yeah.
I was saying, like, there was a line around the fucking thing. You know, I mean, it's still like I went in and did my job. It took me about 45 minutes in that Kroger, and there was still a line around the building. I mean,
that's most fast food in the mornings as well.
Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree with you, but just a cup of coffee. Well, I guess they have like breakfast sandwiches and shit now too.
Yeah, that they don't make there.
Right. I don't. Again, like I can't wrap my head around the concept of the value of that.
There was some comedian.
The coffee is not that good.
It might have been Segura. I can't remember. There was some funny comedian that was talking about that. He's like, you go like Starbucks drive-thru now. Like, you start about, you know, what kind of coffee can I get started for you? And now it's, you know, what kind of food can I get started for you? And you're like, hey, wait, what? You have food? Well, I don't really want food. Like, wait, you have bacon, sausage? Well, no, we have, scones and blah, blah, blah. It's like, I just want to get food. I just want to get coffee. But no, it started out with like, we got this food.
Yeah, I can't. I just can't. I can't.
That's just like one more selling point.
I mean, I get it.
Reminding people,
sure.
In case you didn't look at our menu board, we have food too.
Right. I mean, I get it on the business standpoint.
Marketing side of it, yeah.
I don't know. I can't. I mean, I remember.
It's definitely
AC and I
overpriced.
were coming back from.
I'll do Starbucks sparingly.
Where was it? Was it the time we went to Columbus for the Radiohead show? We stopped at the same Starbucks on the way up and back.
Did we?
I don't remember. I was so delirious on the way back.
I mean, last time I did a long road trip, I did stop at a number of Starbucks just because that was one place right off the interstate that had caffeine that I needed.
Right, and you've got a number of them that are in places now. Like, they're inside gas stations. They're not standalones and whatever.
I went to only standalones. Yeah. Go to that franchise bullshit.
You're so fancy.
I know. I went to the real Starbucks.
Here's my prediction is that you're going to see the standalones starting to close.
Think so?
Yeah. Especially as this recession starts rolling in. But even without it, even if we weren't going into recession. Because as I understand it, when you go into a Food City or a Kroger and Ingles,
those Uber Eats people got to get the coffee from somewhere.
But if you go into one of these Starbucks that are in a grocery store, they are not Starbucks employees. They work for the grocery store.
Right. Yeah, I've heard that.
And the grocery stores already have a union. There's a United Grocer Stock Person Union or some shit. So they already have a union, and obviously Starbucks is okay with that union existing the way it exists, because apparently it's not detrimental to Starbucks' needs, because it puts all the weight on, because it doesn't put the weight on Starbucks. They just get whatever kickback they get for whatever they do there. Right. They probably don't make as much money off of it, but at some point they're just going to be like, fuck it. We'll just close all our standalones that we own, and we'll fire all our employees, and everybody else is going to be Kroger, Food City employees making our coffee. So, anyway, that's our Starbucks union breakdown. I didn't mean to go that way.
What else you got?
I don't know, man. Like I said, I think like the abortion topic is taking so much air out of the room. Like, I don't know what else is going on. I'll go back to the apartment.
But I mean, I'm not sure what people. I mean, I don't want to continue to go down this Roe v. Wade, but I don't
finish the thought.
I'm just not quite sure what can be done at this point. I mean, you could advocate for state laws to be changed, but that's going to be a long process. But I mean, with some court things decided, any kind of legal arguments are going to go back to other state courts, district courts, circuit courts, or whatever.
Yeah. Like extreme short term, we got the 6-week window. We'll see. Because again, right now, as far as I know, Knoxville Planned Parenthood is done. So they're.
Oh, as far as doing abortions, yes, but
right.
That's always been like the big misnomer. Everybody just assumes like Planned Parenthood, like that's the only thing they do.
Right. I apologize. I didn't mean they were done as a totality. They were done doing this particular procedure.
Okay, sorry. That's what I meant. Like they're done as like they're going to have to shutter doors, like Planned Parenthood.
Or maybe they're not. Maybe they're continuing in the under 6-week tiny window version of it.
I mean, states that allow it, they're not going to operate outside of the law. They're not that stupid.
And so I like I said, I think there's a couple ways to play it, and I think the simplest way to play it. But I think the concern is, I guess to me, like I was saying earlier, the concern is to me if you're going to go on a civil rights bodily autonomy argument, that opens the door on a lot of other things that maybe people don't really want to open up, like vaccine requirements being a simple, semi-recent example.
Where?
What?
Where were vaccines required?
I mean, vaccines are required to go to school. And there are not the particular vaccine in question.
Required to go to school?
To go to public school. without some serious exemption requirements. You can't just say, I don't feel like it. You have to go through a big, complicated exemption process.
Okay. No other vaccines were required? This was a new thing?
I'm not talking about that vaccine. I'm talking about vaccines in general.
Right.
There are vaccine requirements that exist to go to school.
Okay. So this wasn't a new thing that we required vaccines?
No.
Okay.
My point is that if you go and set a bodily autonomy as part of civil rights as the argument for why abortions can continue to be legal, if that is the route you go for, then you potentially open the door to other things that you may not want. Example being vaccine requirements for public schools. If the argument you put in place that says the state has no right to make you do anything with your body that you don't want to do to participate in society, and that's how we're going to loophole in abortion rights, then vaccine requirements get a little icky, and you may be careful. You may want to be careful about how you write that law to make sure that doesn't include that. That's my point. But if it's under a civil rights issue, it's going to be hard to narrowly define it.
Vaccines have always been under a public health issue.
Yes. I don't understand what is the pushback here. I'm not saying that I'm advocating for one thing or another. My point is that the route to one of the routes to.
I don't see the close similarity to the two, I guess.
Okay.
I don't see as much as them being intertwined.
Okay, so what is it? What?
Let's go on to something else.
Okay. Amelia Parker has a couple other ballot items she's wanted to add.
Such as?
More of the budget stuff. We joked about the tiebreaker bullshit. But the budget stuff is what she's really after. She wants the mayor's proposed budget to be required to be available sooner. She wants to get rid of the first reading requirement. And she wants to push back the deadline to approve later. Essentially, it's the go ahead.
I think we talked about that last time. How it came out, and then a week later,
right?
Like, all right, we're voting on it.
The way it works, it doesn't matter.
Or isn't it like less than a week or something?
The sad reality is it doesn't matter. It absolutely does not matter what city council thinks about the mayor's budget.
There's no real contesting it, I guess.
Yeah, you could say and you could say like, okay, so the broad strokes of it is the mayor proposes her budget. By city charter, it has to be approved on the first reading. They're not allowed to talk about it, discuss it, get to work on it until it's approved in first reading. I don't know why. I don't know what the function of that is. Whatever. I guess it's like, yes, we approve the fact that the mayor has presented a budget. Approved, moving forward.
Right? The only thing I could think is, I guess if that wasn't in place, that it could be held up for months and months and months, even a year or two.
That's just it. Is it can't. The way it works is that if it doesn't matter what the city council does, they can approve it. They can not approve it. And if the mayor doesn't adjust to their request for not approval, it just goes to the mayor's original proposed budget anyway.
Yeah.
So literally, it's like, okay, so you're the mayor. I'm on city council. You propose your budget. I say, this budget is shit.
Right.
Me and my 9 friends in city council.
I don't like your changes.
Think this budget is shit.
I'm just going to stick with my plan anyway.
Right. We all think your budget is shit. Here are our suggestions for corrections. You just ignore it. And the deadline hits, and your original proposal goes through anyway.
Gotcha.
Which, as far as I understand in reading through... Now, I do believe that a tax change has to be approved by city council, which gets into some weird, fun games that could happen. If the city council doesn't approve the budget, or rephrase that, if the city council doesn't approve the tax change, and regardless of what they do with the budget, the mayor's proposed budget goes through, but that proposed budget is dependent on the tax change, I have no idea what happens. And that would be super interesting to see. Because, presumably the tax change would be for a raise in taxes.
All right.
So the budget includes the income from the raise in taxes, but they can't pay the budget because they don't have the raise in taxes because they disapproved the budget. Or they didn't approve the budget, or the tax change. So I'm not sure about some of the little finer points in that.
I assume it would default to everything passed but that tax change. If the tax change was not approved, that
Right, but
Everything
her budget approves by default, but her budget is dependent on the new tax income from the tax change. And so I don't know how that plays out.
Gotcha.
But essentially, I was reading through Amelia's stuff, and if I understand it correctly, which I probably don't, but it still doesn't change anything. It gives them a longer window, more time to talk about it, more time to speak with the different department heads, as well as the community at large about what this budget is, what it's covering, what it's not. But at the end of the day, the mayor still gets her budget if she wants it, regardless of what the city council does and how long they take to look at it. But I agree. I would like a longer time window. I think the first reading automatic approval is just dumb. Because, I mean, okay, so let me back up a second. And I think I do get it now that I'm thinking about it for a second. Anything the city council does has to be approved twice. First reading, second reading. And so as a way to speed the process up, they automatically approve first reading. And then they go through all the budget hearings. Then they go through all the community discussion. Then they go all through the stuff. And then they approve it second reading. And that gets those two approvals requirement in place.
But before that first quote-unquote reading, they don't have access to it to actually read it themselves? No. Okay.
Generally speaking, apparently, and this is not just a Kincannon thing, but most city mayors are not really public. And then, by sunshine law, if it's not open to the public, it's not open to city council either.
Yeah.
So generally speaking, apparently the mayor's office is not open with her budget until she releases it officially. Which, I don't know.
You would think there would be some kind of meeting consensus in the lead up to it. Just to make sure, like, hey,
I mean, it may
we're
be
thinking
something
about promoting this. Would this go over well with the council?
But it doesn't matter. That's the point. It doesn't matter what it doesn't matter if it goes over well. It doesn't matter if you think it does or not. Oh, damn, the city council is going to hate this. They can't stop it. So, I don't know. I'm curious to see how it plays out, especially with Amelia's record inside city council. I'm going to be interested if... And they voted on it earlier tonight. I haven't checked back on it before we started. But it was on the agenda for tonight because it's going to be interesting because... I could see this as a thing that a number of city council people agree with, but like for the majority of her term in office, it's been 8-1, Amelia being the one, 7-2, Amelia and Seema being the other one. Like she has been the dissenter constantly, and so just for the, you say no to everything we do, so we're going to say no to the one thing that you want to do. But I don't know. It's curious. I'm curious to see how it plays out. I'll check that in my compass tomorrow morning. I may have a lead on my second production. Third production, I guess.
Third, yes.
I'd be curious. Like I've decided what I want to do. I've decided I know the big picture. I want a whole stable of shows that are Knoxville, Knox County only. Just kind of point of view shows. Some like ours, stupid idiots being dumb like we do. Some more pro style like the Compass guys and what they do. But I'd like to get like a Hornbeck who's a far right guy, and I'd also like to get a Constance to do a show where we get a further left take on what's going on. Maybe Constance is not the greatest example. Maybe Tyler or Debbie or I pitched it at Matt, but apparently there's a community television here in Knox County. Mm-hmm. They have an agreement with the parties that they will produce things for them,
right?
Which I find gross for a number of reasons. One of which being, well, I'm an independent. Will you produce something for me? Probably not.
Why wouldn't they?
Because I'm an independent. They don't have an agreement with independents, and so the cost of
reach out to them.
I will. I think that's something I will do. But and so what little bit of the Democrats have tried to use it, at least as a party, they do it through what's called DTV, Democratic Television, or whatever the fuck it is, but it's a community television subset from that agreement. But I would love to have that. I'd love to have a Daniel Herrera show and a Matt Shear show, or I'd love to have a party share show where they're both together, or they have their own standalone shows. But I'd like to have like 10 shows with across the board of Knox County politics and culture and people that pay attention and do that kind of stuff. And that if it's all under the umbrella of my production company, we can use each other to promote each other and grow each other. But, you know, there's no excuse to not have a point of view that you understand under my umbrella. That's what I'm after. Because I do a constant show where she sits here and bitches about white people all day, and I'll sit here and I'll push the buttons and I'll do my job. Constance was fun. Did you listen to that one?
No, not yet.
Oh, man. She was fun. Apparently I got her on a good day. Apparently she's hit and miss. Like sometimes she's just fucking angry. But she was fun. I think she was quite smart. I threw her a loop, and I really appreciated the fact that she was on a little rant, and I interrupted her rant with an opposite thought. Mm-hmm. And she's like, "Let me finish." And she finishes what she did, and she said, "Okay, explain to me what you were trying to say." I explained to her what I was trying to say, and I could see her thinking about it.
Right.
It's like, I actually kind of appreciate that.
Right.
Like that is appropriate. Now, she doesn't have to agree with me or not, but
immediate knee-jerk reaction, like, "Well, you're trying to say, well, hold on, like, what are you trying to say?"
Right. And it's that, you know, there's a different way to do that. And I mean, that's really her platform, honestly. And if she has the gusto to stick to it, I'm not opposed. Like, honestly, I kind of like her. Because the platform is, I don't know what I'm doing. My whole goal is to put a network together of my staff and myself, and you tell me what to do. That shouldn't be a novel idea. That should be the job. You're running for governor of the state of Tennessee. I'll go out to Tennesseans and have them tell me what to do. That seems totally reasonable. Now, with her and her track record, her group of people that she's going to have tell her what to do, I don't think it's the appropriate cross section of the Tennessee populace. I don't think it's a decent mixing of the demographics that are Tennessee,
right?
Because that is her track record of conversation. But the idea is right. That's what it should be. Like, I don't know the stats for Tennessee. Going back to the abortion thing for a second, I don't know the stats for Tennessee, but I'm going to guess that it's less than 50% of the state of Tennessee wants a full abortion ban. But we have one because our reps don't represent us; they represent their parties. And since we're Tennessee, it's an all Republican thing. And so they're not representing us. And so somebody who's going to say that my goal is to actually represent you and hear what you have to say, and I want to put people in your neighborhood that you can go talk to that will congeal things and bring it back to me.
Yes, no, it's coming down to just they're listening to just the loudest voices.
Right.
People
the evangelical right.
The most flack.
And the evangelical right, the Catholic and evangelical right, the anti-abortion set of the U.S. populace has been a long view strategy team. Like, this has been a long process that they have dedicated to get us to where we are today. But it's less than 15% of the country. But through a long process of really working the system, they got what they wanted. And now they're going for more. Because they played the game.
Contraceptives that Catholics finally kind of backed off a little bit. Because for the longest time, it was pretty much, no contraception whatsoever.
Pence is after contraceptive. He's after mail order morning after pills, basically.
Yeah.
They're after a lot of stuff. I mean, this is not like... I think one of the things that's overshadowed by how upset everybody is about the specific is, for the people who made this happen, this is the starting line. This is not the finish line.
Yeah, that's what worries some people as far as...
Like Pence right now. Have you heard some of the Pence stuff?
Mm-mm.
Like, Pence is like, this is where we start. This is when we go after... This is when we start going after prophylactics and birth control and all this other stuff that goes along with it. This is where we start pushing back on gay rights and
that's what
gay marriage and that kind of stuff.
A lot of people worry that that's going to
go. I dismissed that off the bat. I was like, no, this is just this one specific issue. But I don't. I stand corrected. I think this is the beginning, and I think gay rights are one of them too. I think and again, that goes back to the argument. It's like I do in my bedroom what I want. You can fuck off. If I want to stick my finger in my butt, I'll stick my finger in my butt. You can't stop me. Because, I mean, again, like, one of the issues with especially with the gay rights part of the conversation is, like, how does that work? Like, logistically, legally. Like, how does that work? So me and you are a couple. You sleep at my house. My neighbor calls and says, hey, there's a dude sleeping over at dude's house. Like, how does that work? Like, how am I found guilty of sodomy?
Be hard to prove.
But I'm just saying, like, obviously, like, there's obviously some teeth to the idea that it could be prosecutable. Other than, like, I mean, are they going to have undercover cops going around pretending to be gay? And
go all the way up to the point of penetration. Like, I got you. Attempted sodomy.
KPD, hands up. Well, I mean, it's like, could me and the missus do it in the butt? Is that illegal for a straight couple?
I think there's some states where there are some of those old antiquated laws that are technically on there, but most times they're just not prosecuted.
Right, but again, I don't know. That to me, like, because it goes back to what AC was talking about last week. I think there is there's a valid argument for the idea of, like, well, functionally, what does it actually change whether we have legal gay marriage or not? Yeah, I mean, realistically, functionally, because you can get most of the legal stuff in place.
Into it.
You can get most of the legal stuff in place without marriage. You can get the power of attorneys and
right, but how many people already have that? How many people know when you're going to have a catastrophic accident happen, and then all of a sudden you have no decisions?
I mean, I think as you get older, you start thinking about shit like that, and maybe you think about it less if you're married because it's automatic because you're married.
All right.
Yeah, but I mean, hell, I mean, I do my life insurance updates for work or whatever, and I have to pick my benefactor. I could put the kids on there and skip her if I wanted to. It's not automatic that she gets it. My life insurance from work when I fill it out on my annual update.
Right.
I do give it to her because that's the logical way to go about it. But, like,
the most pushback I've seen is, in that case of where someone's in the hospital on life support or needs some kind of, major medical decision.
Right.
And then
it's not
that significant other of, possibly decades has no say. Can't even see them.
See, but I don't know. I would think
it's hospital policy,
right? Yeah,
unless you are a family member,
or
power of attorney,
right?
Like I said, most people don't think about those things. I mean, most people assume they're going to live a long time. I'm not going to get sick. They don't. Most people are not pre-thinking those things. Of I need to go ahead and go find a lawyer and fill out power of attorney paperwork and go through all the hoops.
Right, I get what you're saying. I do, because it's automatic for straight people to get married.
All right.
But I mean, I would still say that I would think that, like, I don't have a power of attorney over the missus. Like, we haven't done the paperwork on it.
All right.
And I would say that as of right now, even though we've been married for fucking 10 years or whatever, that right now, if she falls into a coma, her mom and me could actually have a legal fight about who gets to pick what's going on. Even though we're married. Like, I don't know that without a power of attorney in place, I don't know that that's automatic to the spouse either.
I think it's given more weight to the spouse.
That'd be an interesting legal question to follow up on, to be fair. I don't know what that is. I'm just guessing.
Right.
But
as far as hospital policy, I don't know.
Now, the access one I agree with. Like, you're not family, you're not a spouse, you don't get to see this person in the hospital,
right? Because
you're not allowed to be a spouse. That one sucks. I don't know. I don't fucking care. Obviously, that's how I roll on this topic. I don't care. I don't care who you sleep with, what you do in your room at night. Right. It's your business. It's not mine. And it's sure as shit not the state's business, because the state shouldn't exist. But, I just don't. It concerns me. Like, that part of this thing concerns me. Like, that's what really scares me about what's going on right now. Like, this is truly step one, and they pulled it off, and they're organized and they know what they're doing and they know how to get what they want.
Right.
That scares me. And
there's a number of federal judges that got brought in. Right,
but the problem is, I mean, the problem here is that this goes back to that argument with the dude on Facebook who is the super left dude or whatever, and it's like,
I thought we were done with that talk.
I don't want to. But the problem is that I'm on his team. I'm on his side on this topic.
Right.
But when it goes, like, if it was between Kaplan and Maness, man, I don't know. If Maness was a little bit more of a Republican, I don't know. Like, I mean, the problem is I don't have a good choice because I'm stuck with all the other parts. You know, like I could have a candidate who on the abortion topic I'm on board with, but I'm probably not going to be on board with that person's economics. And right now, in the world we live in today, in the United States of America, in the middle of this summer, economics is a big fucking deal. And right or wrong, people see the Republicans as better on economics. I'm not saying it's the right way to see it. I don't necessarily agree that it's the right way to see it. But people see that. And so, like, what do I do? Like, what do I do in my election process when I see this as a problem? I see this Roe v. Wade being overturned as the correct legal decision, but the results of it being a problem. I don't like that the state of Tennessee has this stupid 6-week heartbeat ban. I don't think that's the right way to do it. Now, I need to dig a little further into Mr. Kaplan. I did talk to him and had a great time on the show with him. But just for the sake of conversation, he agrees with me on this policy. I don't like where he's at on weed. He's not far enough on weed. He's too soft on weed. He wants medicinal only. He doesn't want to go full rec. Obviously, Elaine Davis and Testerman are going to be anti-weed, but whatever. But I'm just saying, where's he at on this economics things? Where are he at on these all the other things? It's like, well, this issue is important, but so are these other ones. And the way the two teams line up, how do I make it just like, how do I rank which things are more important to me? Because it's not just me. I'm voting for we. I'm voting for the me that I always reference when I say, what's it matter to me?
All right. Because
that's how we should all vote, is what's it matter to us? And so, like, how do I rank those things fairly? Like, I mean, if you're going to go, like, top 5 issues when you vote, what's the number one issue for you when you vote? What's the number one thing about a candidate that you're going to vote for or against on? Is there a particular policy that matters more than others?
Nah, not so much. And at least in the previous elections, I mean, it's hard to nail someone down on how they feel on different topics anyway. Sometimes they're just going to say whatever they want to say, or
right, whether they do
go
it
the
or
party
not,
line. But just kind of go with gut and the actual personal feeling. If I feel this is a genuine person that really wants to be in that,
I agree with you. I disagree with the last part of what you said. I agree if it's a genuine person. If they really want to be in that seat, that's usually a sign of that they're a disingenuous person. But I agree that it's a person that I actually trust when I say, hey, this thing, that they actually hear what I say and at least consider it. They may not agree with me. They may not do what I ask, but they're at least considering what I'm saying.
All right.
Like, that is a valid thing to put in.
They're not just putting their hands over their ears like, no, I don't hear this, la, 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 la.
Right, and especially for me, who is automatically the enemy from either side. I'm not on your team, so I'm on the opposite team, even though I'm not. You know, when I talk to a candidate and I could feel like, hey, I could say this thing, and I actually feel like you listen to me, that's a good thing. That makes me feel good about that person. Makes me feel more likely to do it because, you know, like it or not, I hate AC all the time for a lot of bullshit he does, but like question 4 and 5 on the standard 5 questions of does partisanship matter? And tell me about somebody from the other party that you like. That was that was the issue I had with Kaz. He has no Republicans. Like, he's like, oh, well, and then he finally lands on Liz Cheney. It's like, come on. Yes, technically she's a Republican. And probably realistically she's a traditional Republican in the grand scheme of things. But the only reason you like her is because she said fuck Trump. So that doesn't really mean I don't know. That's not.
It depends on if he liked her before that.
Right. But she didn't. Like, that was his thing. It's like, I like the fact that she stood up and said, this is wrong. I'm not okay with this.
All right.
You know, which I agree with. I mean, she is correct to do so, and I agree with him for liking her for that fact. But it's like, if you can't like a Republican because they're a Republican, I hate all Republicans, it's like, well, then you're not going to work with them. You're not going to listen to them. Whether it's an elected Republican that you have to work with because it's part of the job, or whether it's the populace of Republicans, which in Knox County are most of them, theoretically. At least voting history, as AC's example. But,
right.
You know, and so I think there's... I don't know. How do we... This frustrates me. This makes me angry. Because I like a candidate that is small government, that is hands off, that is let business take care of their own business. We'll keep an eye on it, make sure they don't get fucking crazy, but keeping taxes as low as we can get away with, but taking care of the things that we say we're going to take care of in a reasonable and whatever fashion, which theoretically, not actually, but theoretically is the Republican stance on thing, but who's also doesn't give a shit who you fuck and what you do in your bedroom, doesn't want to legislate morality like that, doesn't care about what the Bible says about thing X, Y, or Z, just thinks that he might care personally, but doesn't apply that to their professional political ambitions.
As it shouldn't.
As it shouldn't. Those people don't exist in the way the two parties sit. That person that I just described can't exist in the two parties, in either of the two parties. So
they're less electable. Yeah.
I mean, it's not even they're less electable. They don't exist. They don't follow the party platforms. They're not actually that thing. They might be able to run as that thing because the party doesn't care enough to kick them out, but they're not a real Republican. Maness is not a real Republican, by definition. Which, if I was smarter 2 years ago when I had him on the first time, when he says to me, well, who gets to decide who's a Republican? Well, the Republican National Convention puts out a platform, and you need to adhere to that platform to be a Republican. You don't adhere to the platform. You're not a Republican. It's a fact. He's not a Republican by definition. Now, he leans more Republican as far as things that are important to him. If he's going to rank file his policy issues, he cares about economics.
Yeah, but you could argue the platform has changed.
That's fine, and you as a Republican have to change with it, or you're not a Republican anymore. That's the point. You need to identify as agreeing with X, Y, or Z, and we'll take policy steps towards X, Y, or Z, or away from X, Y, or Z, because that is the policy of this party. And if you don't do that, you're not a Republican. Now, you might be closer to a Republican than a Democrat.
I mean, can you argue someone's not a Republican because they keep moving the goal line?
Yes. They create the target, and they get to pick who's inside the circle. That's how it works. It's stupid. I'm not saying it's okay. Rowdy's saying hello? Is there somebody out there, dude? Is it AC? Did he show up? It's a little late, buddy.
Doubt it.
Yeah, because he comes in here and be like, all right, hey, buddy, have a good night. Good show. I was saying, like, that's the problem. That is the problem with the two-party system to me. That's why I'm so adamant about it. That's why it pisses me. Like, why I'm really upset about this Facebook fight thing is because this Brian guy won't give me a fucking shot. All he sees is me pick on Democrats, so he assumes I'm a Republican. Doesn't matter what I say. Doesn't matter how much I hate Republicans.
He's closed his mind to
right. He's done with me because of that. And maybe I should reflect on that a little bit and think more about how I approach these things so that I can be acceptable even with my criticisms.
You can extend an
to
olive
help
branch
get to a level.
You can extend an olive branch in a single attempt.
I've tried with him already, and it doesn't matter.
All right.
He doesn't care. He thinks I'm full of shit. He thinks I'm just picking on it. He thinks he thinks I'm a Trumper. Like, he called me a Trumper, and I was like, dude, I actually kind of had hope for Trump really throwing the system out sideways. But what are you doing?
Yeah. I was saying you got.
Oh yeah, I do have a Trump mask in here. I have a Biden mask in here. I got a Trump koozie and a Biden koozie and all this stupid shit because it's funny. Well, I was trying to figure out what you were pointing at. Yeah. But I just think because again, I don't think I think you're closer to me. I think you personally are closer to my stance on this whole mess than you are an actual definitional Democrat. I think you lean left. I think you're further left to me if we're going to go on the right-left axis. But I think you're closer to me than what the actual Democratic Party is today.
Yeah.
And I think Max is closer to me than he is the actual Republican Party today. And I think if we went out and actually talked to most of the population and really got an understanding of who they were as a person, most of them are going to be closer to me than they are the actual Republicans or the actual Democrats by definition. And nobody cares, nobody knows, nobody pays attention. It's just like, oh, I always voted for the R guys. I'm going to vote for the R guy.
Yeah, it's just people that care the most, the loudest voices are the people that go out and vote. So you see that more on the more extreme portions of it.
Yeah, no, and which was my argument last week, and AC dismissed, and I think he's wrong. I will predict that I still think the Republicans are going to take the House and the Senate through this because, again, economics is more important than most things for most people. But I think, if anything, this Roe Wade thing is going to have an appreciable positive for the Democrats in this midterm. Now they're going to lose. They're going to be less good. They're going to have less hold or no hold on the other side of this. But where they were going to lose 20 seats, they're now only losing 5. I don't think that's the right numbers. I think it's bigger than that. but that kind of being the stretch of ideas there. And I guess it's proving a negative. We can never actually say what they did win or lose or whatever. We know what they did do, but what could have happened if this thing would have waited until now or until after the November election or whatever to come out. But one way or the other, I just think I don't see a way out of this. It's really sad.
I mean, there's a lot going to happen between now and November.
Yeah. Jan 6 isn't going to do it. Jan 6 hearings aren't going to do it. Maybe, I guess, Jan 6 may keep Trump out of 24, which is just going to get us Ron DeSantis, which is more or less the same thing.
I wouldn't call him the front runner.
A little better at it. What, Pence? Pence would be worse for this conversation. That's the other thing, too.
I don't think Pence either.
I was at the other store talking to John and Anthony, and it's like, who's running against Trump in 24? Like, who are the Democrats putting up?
I think most people in his circle aren't going to want to cross him in that realm.
No, not the Republicans. It's the Democrats. Who are the Democrats putting against him?
Oh.
I agree. I think the Republicans, like the Republican Party, is in a terrible spot too. Because if they don't want Trump, they're stuck with Trump, and it's going to be a weird dance.
Yeah, I don't think they would ever think of putting Schumer up. It was arguably, I guess, one of the more powerful on the Democratic side. I
mean, you know what? Buttigieg is a no. Booker is a no. Warren's a no. Hillary comes back. Like I saw, I was.
I don't think Buttigieg has the. I don't think he did that bad leading into it. I think he made like the top 4 or 5 going into.
I mean, he technically won Iowa.
Primaries.
Technically won Iowa, but apparently he was questionable. Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, I like Hillary. Like, there was this. I
don't think Hillary would run again.
I think she's probably the best there is. That has I think she's the best that could win. That could beat Trump. I think Biden, if Biden's functionally alive, I know you hate the joke, but if Biden's functionally alive, I think Biden could maybe. But realistically, Kamala can't do it.
I can't remember where she ended up landing in the primaries.
She was out before Iowa. She didn't even make it to any of the mess. Like, I mean, there's been, I don't know, this is my breaking points thing. Maybe they're full of shit, but there's been talks in the top echelons of the party of what do they do? Like, if Biden doesn't run again because they don't think he should, if they think Biden's age is starting to actually catch up with them and they decide that Biden isn't the best candidate for it, definitionally, usually the vice president comes in next.
Right.
But they don't nobody Kamala's less popular than Biden is right now.
That was one funny thing. I think I remember reading about the that Nashville district where they were asking about impeaching Trump. Someone said they were against it, but I think they said they were against it because they didn't want Kamala to automatically go in if they did impeach him.
I mean, it's a fair thought process.
Yes.
And so, but again, like Pete or Booker or Warren, Bernie's older than Biden is. AOC.
I think Booker could do well enough. I think he made it pretty far along in the primaries.
I don't know.
I don't. He's a good speaker.
He is functionally easy to listen to. Yes, I agree with that. I don't know.
I think he speaks from the heart, so I'll give him credit for that.
It goes to the easy punchline of this is the best we've got, and the only reason this is the best we've got is because of the way the parties work. I mean, that goes. I mean, I don't know. I can't beat this dead horse hard enough. This is the best we've got because of the system, because of the two parties, because of the way primaries work, because of the way the party politics works, and that sucks. It sucks. I mean, I don't disagree with you on the Cory Booker thing per se. He seems genuine when he speaks. But even on the Republican side, like Trump or DeSantis. I mean, who else we got on the Republican side? Got another Bush coming back out of the fucking woodwork. Maybe Ted Cruz.
Cruz would run.
The second coming of Orion.
I only saw a little clip of it.
Paul, rather.
But I guess, I'm not sure exactly when it was, but there was, I guess, some kind of debate that was put on between Cruz and Bernie. And I only saw a little bit of it. It was kind of interesting.
Yeah. I just, again, like I said, I don't, that's the sucky part. It's like right now it's crazy. Right now sucks. Right now we have problems and we have need for some solutions and some effort and something. I don't see anything significantly happening now. It's only going to get worse come January when these elections take hold and everything kind of flips around and settles down into what the new House and Senate look like. It's not going to get better as far as functionality speaking. And I don't see a future. Like I don't see who's in the pipeline that's going to come in and make it better. And that's the same here, as far as I can see. I mean, I don't see anybody that's like, for my District 18 race, I don't see anybody that's like, whoa. And part of that is, Kaplan's at a disadvantage because even if he does win, and I do like some of the stuff he's after, he's still going to be like, 12 of 75 or whatever it is for the State House, State House Tennessee. It's like, it's going to be such he gets to add one to the super minority that is Democrats in the House. But again, he's still not after what I'm after either. And I still don't, again, maybe that's the thing. Yeah, I've made this joke before, making the sheet. Like, how do we break this down into a functional format where it's like, let's take 10 policies and tell me right on these 10 policies. And do I agree or disagree with you on these 10 policies? And then rank those policies on level of importance. I'm going to guess that my top 10 policy issues, my top 10, I'm going to be 5 and 5. Like if it's I'm going to be right down I'm going to be near or right near the middle. And I'm going to have no option that's going to actually at least be a majority of what I'm after. And I don't know how we get out of that. And it sucks. It makes me say it.
I think at some point you have to realize that those people that are elected aren't going to always value your particular values.
No, I agree with that. But I'm just saying, but my concern is that I'm so down the middle that if we picked an even number, I'm going to be split.
Yeah.
If we picked an odd number, it's going to be 4 and 3. But of the one that has 3, I have a little bit more value on those 3 than a couple of the 4. So mathematically, it's even. I don't see a positive push either way, I guess, is my problem. But again, that's only because there is A or B. If there was a C, I could be 6 of 7 or 5 of 7.
Is Perot dead? I think he did die.
I'm sure. I mean, yeah, he was like 80 in the 90s.
What about Nader? I think Nader's still going.
I mean, Dave Smith for the Libertarian Party, that's going to be crazy if he actually runs. I'm down with it. They're on they're trying to get to. Apparently, there's a bill floating around right now trying to stop our assistance to the Saudis in the war with the Yemenis.
By
us and the Saudis.
Who's trying to stop it? I'm sorry.
The Libertarians just had their annual convention, and so their new chair, all their leadership changes has just gone through and stuff like that. And so one of the first initiatives of the new chair or whatever, it's like, this is like, there's a bunch of backstory here, but long story short is like, this is an issue that is well within the Libertarian Party realm of, we don't like war, we don't like foreign interventionism, we don't like all this other stuff. And so what's going on in Yemen that's being completely overlooked and ignored is a big issue for them. And so they've decided that this is going to be their first, that they jump on board, they use the political will that they have with the people that they have in place, as well as the people that are part of the party, to contact their representatives, whether they're libertarians or not, and be like, hey, get on board on this bill. Because as an American, it's important that we are not funding and assisting a country who is in the middle of a genocidal war against their neighbor. And so that's the push right now. And there's a specific bill I need to pull it up so I have it, because I need to make my phone calls, because even though I'm not part of the party, I do agree with the premise. So I might as well do the effort. Call Miss Blackburn. She probably told me to fuck off, but I'll call her anyway. But hey, let's quit.
More people push back on the Saudis for, I guess, the
Khashoggi. And,
right.
Yeah. I mean, they're bad actors in the game. Like and it's on record that somebody from the Obama State Department was like, the only reason we're helping the Saudis with this is to placate them because they were really mad that we went into Iraq. They didn't want us to go into Iraq because they knew that we'd go into Iraq, we'd fail, and then essentially Iran would take over Iraq, which at least argumentatively is what's happening, because they didn't want the destabilization, because they were better with the Saudis like Saddam, because Saddam kept Iran in check, theoretically. And the Saudis didn't like Iran either. And so by the Saudis and Iraq both kind of being at odds with Iran, they kept Iran in check. Right. They kept Iran in check, but us going in there threw the whole thing whatever to the side. And so basically the Saudis are like, you guys fucked up doing that, and we're going to take that out on you in oil prices and other things that we can fuck around with. And Obama's State Department's like, well, what can we do to make you happy? Well, refuel our jets, help us with the maintenance and whatever on our planes that we bought from you in the first place, so that we can go kill our neighbor in Yemen. Like, okay, I guess we'll do that.
Yeah, I don't know as much about the Yemen.
Nobody does.
That was
Nobody
something
talks
along the
about
lines of, well, I mean, they talk about it, but I think it's a lot of Saudis are fighting, I guess, who they call, extremists there.
The Houthis.
The Houthis, yeah.
Who they say are tied to Iran, which they're not, but, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's a PR.
What makes you automatically say they're not?
Well, I mean, there's it's a big long fucking story. I was just listening to a thing on it earlier today. So the leader of the Houthi set or whatever had apparently been like the president or some sort of leader of Yemen at large, and then the Saudis came in and kind of overthrew the power. He took 2/3 of his army, ran up to the north section of the state, and had kind of coalesced what is the Houthis, which is a bunch of different tribes and
coalition, I guess.
Right, a coalition of a bunch of people who didn't like the Saudis trying to take over Yemen, and were trying to go back down. Where the plan they ended up going back down and taking over the capital. To which Iran said, "That's a bad idea. You should do that." Even though Iran doesn't like the Saudis either, and so by having the Saudis distracted by this Houthi thing, it was a bonus to Iran, but they still were on record being like, hey, this is a bad idea, you shouldn't do that. And then there was some sort of like OPEC, not OPEC per se, but some sort of like summit of what is the peninsula?
Arabian.
Yeah, there was like a summit of Arabian Peninsula people, and Iran had called a bunch of people in, and they didn't invite, because the Houthis ended up taking back over Yemen, and they didn't invite Yemen to it initially until it was like way late in the process, because they didn't like what was going on over there either. And it's a bunch of Sunni, Shiite. It's a bunch of subsets of the different old school.
Some just goes back years and years. Like I didn't realize for the longest time that literally, Saudi Arabia translates to land of the Saudis. It's literally, I guess, I'd say it's probably one of the few countries in the world that are named after the family that owns that land.
Yeah. And so, right, that, and then they throw the Khashoggi thing on and all the other shit going on over there. I mean, there's a ton of history there when the Russians were in there, and Cold War stuff that was going on in the area too. There's a bunch going on, historically speaking.
There's a lot there with Russian and Chinese now in Africa, in different parts of Africa.
Right. But I mean, okay. So the on the stupid question that I like to ask all the time.
How does this benefit you and I?
Right. How does us spending billions of tax dollars on assisting the Saudis with a war with their neighbors good for us? Is it getting us better oil prices? Maybe. Not really. Apparently not right now. Not to mention but apparently has Biden gone over yet? Because there's been talking about Biden's going to go over there and kiss some ass, try to get them loyal Saudis to
I don't think
start
he has yet.
working some more oil.
Don't believe he has yet. No, I mean, I would assume a lot of it's done in hopes of having a semi-stabilization of the region.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just like historically, like how well have we done at any sort of stabilization of the Arabian Peninsula? Us or Russia or both?
There's no real way to, I guess, predict what would have happened if Saddam had not have been deposed.
Well, that's what it was. Saudis were pissed that that was what the Obama part was. The Saudis were pissed that Obama went in there with a nuclear deal.
To Iran, with the nuclear deal?
Yeah. And so the State Department, in placating the Saudis, to make them to apologize for trying to work out a deal so that Iran doesn't produce nukes, which apparently realistically they weren't trying to produce weapons nukes. They were trying to produce nuclear power for their people. At least that's the argument. I don't know.
Yeah, but there's a little bit of gray area in there of the byproduct of you doing that also makes materials that are also able to be used in making nuclear weapons.
Right, and so anyway.
It could go either way. It could be seen on either side. It's like, no, we're trying to make nuclear power.
Iran hates us.
Well, no, it looks like you could be making nuclear weapons. Like, no, we're just making nuclear power.
Right. Iran hates us, wants to make nukes. We make a deal to keep them in check on making nukes, but doing some nuclear programming for them, or allowing them to do some nuclear programming as long as they let us check in on it. Saudis get pissed.
I mean, geopolitics is very crazy.
I agree, and I don't think the standard question when we are involved in
I
it
think
is,
that the inverse would be just to turn our back on Iran and not try to have some kind of mutual agreement in place.
I mean, I don't know, what's our relationship with North Korea? And they actually have nukes. Is that why we're not as hostile to North Korea, because they actually have nukes?
We don't have much of a relationship at all with North Korea.
Right.
I mean, Trump loved the guy, and Dennis Rodman loves the guy.
Yeah. It's a weird thing, that whole Dennis Rodman thing.
It's weird.
But I'm just saying, like, what is? I mean, like, so. Yeah, I mean, the problem with it. I mean,
we've tried to reach out and engage with them.
But I mean, the point is like
that is better than the prospect of having no engagement with them.
I agree. Anything to put nuclear war on the bottom of the list of things to do is high on my list as well. But when we have a nation who publicly states how much they hate us and is publicly developing their nuclear program with the intent to hit us with it, and we don't seem to have any real like forced dialogue there, like we're making a big deal out of. I mean, we do have a bunch of sanctions. They're still in the dark ages. As far as that goes,
I don't think we have that much capability to actually hit
fine.
American land.
Iran doesn't have capability to hit anything either because they don't have a program. But we go out of our way, bend over backwards to try to get this Iran thing, and then piss off one of Iran's neighbors, then bend over backwards to Iran. It's like, I don't know, what's the point? Like, what are we doing? Like, what is the actual point of this process? Like, I get
semi-global stabilization.
Because
with Iran, we have many of our friends that are right around that we have mutual pacts with.
Okay, and so in the attempt for global stabilization, we've done a really shitty job, or am I misreading the situation? I guess we can't prove the negative of what would happen if we weren't in there meddling.
Right.
If Saddam was still in power, it might be different. Or if, I don't know, what was it, the Chelsea Manning issue that turned on the Arab Spring that changed this, that, and the other, and all the other stuff that's going on over there. That's the Chelsea Manning one?
Turned on the Arab Spring.
Yeah, isn't that what wasn't the Chelsea Manning leak that started the Arab Spring?
No, Egypt had nothing to do with Chelsea Manning.
Sorry, I conflated issues. I apologize. The Arab Spring is more than Egypt. The Arab Spring was like 9 countries. They were like,
I believe it started in Egypt and their
Egypt,
overthrow of the government.
Anyway, whatever. The point of my story is the point I'm trying to get to is it's not provable, and I get that, but do you think our efforts in the Middle East have been a stabilizing effect long term? I mean, I guess it's better than if Russia was in there doing the stabilization.
Have we done a great job? No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean...
Okay, I agree with you.
Better than 50-50 right in the middle, yeah.
And again, I get it, because as compared to what? Because we can't really compare to what. But I guess part of that to me is like North Korea would be the comparison study, is we just said fuck off and shut them off and said you don't exist on the world stage as far as we're concerned.
All right.
And we produced the North Korea But I mean, there's plenty of other nations out there that we just don't pay attention to or really care that they exist, and they're not trying to kill us either. It's the ones that we go fuck around in, they get mad.
Sure.
I don't know. It's a weird... I don't know. I don't understand. I agree. Geopolitics is super big and complicated.
Right. I mean, everyone wants to be isolationist, but I'm sorry, at this point, we are a global economy. Everyone is pretty much interlinked.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that is the status of things. It's not a requirement of life.
It's not a requirement of life. I mean, if we can do everything ourselves, more power to them.
I mean, I think that's why on a strategic domestic standpoint, I think that's the biggest problem we are having right now is that we've let our interdependence go too far. I mean, that was pandemic recession stuff. That
we have the ability to be completely independent.
No, that's the problem.
Okay.
Is we don't even have the beginnings of the ability to be completely independent. And we're not as bad off as most of Europe is right now because of what's going on over there. I mean, they're already predicting issues for power supplies through the winter in Germany right now.
Right.
It's that bad because it's going to take them. It is. They are so interdependent that it's going to take them years to get any sort of self-reliance in power production.
They've started to go back to coal. Many countries have.
Yeah.
In Europe.
Yeah. So, win one for the greener Earth right now, I guess. They shut down, like 3 nuclear plants in Germany over the last 10 years?
Not sure.
It's been a couple. Anyway.
Well, I think most of them have been due to age. France did the same.
I mean,
a lot of them were just...
Again, I think that's
we're that old, where I think they said it's going to cost us this much to refurbish it.
As to build a new one, and that's not...
Build a new, more efficient one, I guess, right. Essentially.
Nuclear power is not green enough.
Essentially, they would be...
I think I don't know. That's one of the big solution things. I think that I don't understand why we're not talking about nuclear power like it's an actual solution. Why it's not okay as a solution to energy issues.
I mean, the main thing is the potential of risk, but also you still have that byproduct that who's going to hold it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Finland has right now like one of the deepest repositories for nuclear waste.
Yeah, but who holds on to who holds on to the coal ash? Let's go into Roane County and talk about how well that goes.
Yeah, there's been many reports of it just being laying out with fucking tarps laying over top of it.
Yeah. I'm saying, like, I mean, I just don't know. Did you see the new solar plant they're building downtown? Like right there, it's behind the health department.
I hadn't heard about it.
Yeah, it's right there off of 40 downtown, where the health department is on Middlebrook, between Middlebrook and the interstate, right there. The framework's up. They haven't actually put the photocells up yet, which is another problem because all the photocells come from China and all the issues with the Chinese right now. So that's fun. We're so dependent.
When we outsource and we're like, hey, can you make it cheaper?
We're so dependent on foreign labor that we can't even.
Will you please make this cheaper for us?
We can't even produce the parts to produce our own power.
I mean, there's many arguments you can make. I mean, we have very intelligent people that are focused on some of the wrong things. You know, we figured out how to kill people faster and greater and quicker.
Because you make money. It's profitable.
Yeah.
Because we can't not be in some war somewhere. We've got to be out there killing somebody or funding somebody, which whether it's directly funding or giving them arms to do it. You know, I mean, if you're building tanks right now, it's good business to be in. Because we're sending billions of dollars worth of them over there for one thing or another.
Yeah, we've done that in the past without really wars going on. As far as just other countries relying upon, we made some of the best fighter jets or whatever. Or even just there was a whole big thing between Boeing and Airbus, which was European versus the U.S. Essentially, who would stock major airlines with their next superliner, basically.
Right. Yeah, but that's commercial. Like we're talking about weapons. I'm talking about like.
Right, I'm talking about both.
I'm just saying,
but then you also have that to where we're making some of the best fighter jets that we're also selling to other countries or missile systems, tanks, artillery, whatever.
Right, and why can't but the question is, why isn't it profitable? Because when it gets down to it, that's all that matters. Why isn't it profitable to do some of the right things? What we consider the right things are.
because some of them are long term and not immediate, I guess, rewards.
Yeah, but that to me, and the few things that I'm okay with government doing stuff on, that to
lack
me
of
makes
foresight.
sense. Foresight.
No, lack of farsight.
It's foresight.
Is that foresight?
Yeah.
Looking at in the out.
Into the future. Lack of foresight.
Lack of foresight.
On that,
Do it.
we'll call it a show. That's the show, everybody. Almost Agreement at gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Go to almostagreement.com. Check out my Voter Guide 22, as well as all the episodes, and you can learn more about me and other random shit that I have posted on the website. But mostly it's just links to the shows, as well as things that I think could be useful to you in your election process. Election Guide 22 is KGIS link, Election Commission link. Get your voter, check your status, know what district you're in, know where your voting location is, as well as going to scroll down and you'll see all the different candidates running for all the different places. Links where I put links in the shows that I've done with people and stuff like that. So, I don't know, go check that out, do that kind of thing. Go to your favorite podcast provider, tell your friends about us, like, share, give us a 5-star review, that kind of stuff. Stay tuned. I'm working on at least one more project, I hope. I'm going to keep the Compass thing rolling, so check out the Compass Points podcast. They're available on all providers too. Like and share and follow them as well, because they actually know what the fuck they're talking about. I'm just talking shit. So anyway, almost here, everybody. Have a good night.